of the Limitation of Actions Act of 2010 provides for the right to claim for settlement on certain land after the prescribed period. That recognizing that there is need for Ministry of Land to hasten the process of identifying parcels of land occupied by squatters where there are no disputes from any parts. There is also a motion on expansion of drug and substance abuse of rehabilitation centres brought by Honourable John Makali, the Member of Parliament, that the House urges the government to institute intensive programs for the dissemination of information on alcohol and substance abuse in line with the Alcoholic Drink Control Act of 2010 and to increase the number of rehabilitation centres across the 47 counties. That are aware that according to National Protocol for Treatment of Substances Use Disorders in Kenya, by the Ministry of Health, drug abuse has been increasingly in Kenya, especially among the youth, with statistics indicating that more than half of drug users are aged between 10 and 19 years. Research released by the National Authority for the Campaign Against Drug Abuse, NACADA, in December 2022 last year, placed Western Region as the leading region in alcohol and substance abuse at a percentage of 23.8%. It was followed by Coastal Region at 13.9% and Central Region of Kenya at 11.9%. The high level of drug abuse in Western Region is attributed to illegal entry points from the neighboring countries and unlicensed establishments, especially in Bungoma and Busia counties, with statistics indicating that 2 of every 5 establishments in Bungoma operate illegally. It further recognizes that a majority of the consumers of illegal substances are school-going children between the ages of 10 to 19.
Order, members. Order. Order, members. We have the requisite numbers. Sergeant Atam, stop the ringing of the bell. Order number 1.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 9th August 2023, morning sitting. 1. Annual report and financial statements of Chemelil Sugar Company for the year ended 30th June 2022 from Minister of Agriculture and Livestock Development. 2. Reports of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the year ended 30th June 2022 and the certificates therein. 1. Thika Technical Training Institute, Nairobi Technical Training Institute, Kisiwa Technical Training Institute, Keroka Technical Training Institute, Shamberere Technical Training Institute, Bushiangala Technical Training Institute, Karen Technical Training Institute for the Deaf, Nyabera Vocational and Training Center, Nyangoma Vocational Training Center, Obange Vocational Training Center, Choa Vocational Training Center, Sianda Vocational Training Center, Akado Vocational Training Center, Lunga Vocational Training Center, Mariwa Technical and Vocational Center, Withul Vocational and Training Center, Karateng Vocational Training Center, Belgut Technical and Vocational College, Nachu Technical and Vocational College, Taveta Technical and Vocational College, Okame Technical and Vocational College, Webuye West Technical and Vocational College, Jaramogi Oginga University of Science and Technology, Kiambu Institute of Science and Technology, and Sunset Hotel Limited. I beg to lay, Honorable Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
The first question by member for Butula, Honorable Joseph Oyula, will be deferred. So we'll have the next question by the member for Emuhaya, Honorable Mboko Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance to ask question number 350 of 2023 to the Teacher Service Commission. Could the Teacher Service Commission explain why the money for group life expense or cover is no longer paid to teachers or their dependents after bereavement under the new medical scheme with Iron Minute? Number two, explain the scope of the group life and last expense medical covers provided for teachers under Iron Minute. And number three, Honorable Speaker, enumerate the measures it has instituted to expedite operationalization of the medical scheme to the teachers under Iron Minute. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, if you want to intervene, put the intervention button. Before we go to the next order, allow me to recognize students and pupils in the galleries. In the speakers gallery, we have Umoja Tulwet Secondary School from Kuresoi North Constituency, Nakuru County. We also have Farm Foundation Academy from Kasarani Constituency, Nairobi County. In the public gallery, we have Ndere Boys High School from Gem, Siaya County. We have Chepkolon Green Highlands Academy from Ainamoi Constituency, Kericho County. We have Kamasat Primary School, Marakwet West Constituency, Elgeyo Marakwet. We have Carlo Oliviero Primary School from Manyata Constituency, Embu County. Let us welcome them to observe the proceedings of the National Assembly. I will indulge the member for Marakwet West, Honorable Timothy, to welcome them, not only those from Marakwet, not only them from Marakwet West, but all the students in the gallery.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to welcome the students from various institutions who are in the public gallery. So, Madam Speaker, I wish to welcome them to Parliament, the August House. Madam Speaker, a special mention to a school in the public gallery, that is Kamasat Primary School. That is my alma mater, where I studied my primary school. Madam Speaker, the school holds special memories for me. I was in that public gallery in the year 1996 when I was in Standard 4 in that school. Madam Speaker, at that time, the Honorable Speaker was a member of Parliament in this House. So I encourage them to learn from the chamber. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, member for Marakwet West, and on behalf of the National Assembly, we welcome all the pupils and students to the National Assembly. Member Honorable Kasait, what is out of order?
Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Milemba directed his question, and I wish you could listen to me. The Honorable Milemba directed his question.
Honorable Mboko Milemba, this is concerning you. Take your seat for now and listen to Honorable Kasait.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, the question by Honorable Milemba was directed to the Teacher Service Commission. Our standing orders do not have room for the CEO of Teacher Service Commission to come and answer questions on the floor. And I mean, could I be in order to ask that that question be directed properly or Mr. Milemba, Honorable Milemba, can drop the question and approach Teacher Service Commission in person.
Order, Honorable William, and maybe I'll help you, Honorable Mboko. We have an addendum to the standing orders that allow questions to the independent commissions to be responded to the committees. So it is in order. Next order.
Order number 8, procedural motion, limitation of debate on motions sponsored by individual members.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 97-1, and notwithstanding the resolution of the House on Wednesday, 15 February 2023, this House orders that each speech in a debate on any motion introduced by an individual member be limited in the following manner. A maximum of 1.5 hours with not more than 10 minutes for the mover in moving, and 5 minutes in replying, and a maximum of 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, and that priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party and the chairpersons of the relevant department committee, in that order. Honorable Speaker, members will note that the House Business Committee has put in place efforts to facilitate individual members' bills by scheduling them in the afternoon sitting every Wednesday to allow the House to consider motions by individual members in the Wednesday morning sitting. Honorable Speaker, usually we do 3 hours for these motions. If we do 3 hours for one motion, it means the whole morning session or the afternoon session is taken up by only one motion. Therefore, making it difficult for us to process the many motions that we have. Now, the House considers an individual member motion every Wednesday morning, which has been allocated 3 hours each. Currently, Honorable Speaker, we have 25 motions before the House. Now, if we are looking at 25 motions before the House, and each motion takes 3 hours, that is almost a day or a sitting, it's very difficult for us to finish these motions. So in the wisdom of the House Business Committee, we have decided, it was decided by the House Business Committee, that now these motions time be reduced to 1.5 hours, and that the speaking time be reduced so that we have more members contributing and more members' motions being processed. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I would like this House to concur with the House Business Committee so that we are able to fast track and have more motions so that we can process business faster. Honorable Speaker, this will therefore accord the House time to consider and conclude with all the pending business. Some members bring in their amendments, they bring in their bills, and these bills take 2-3 years to process in this House. But for us, following the communication of the Speaker last week, for us to be able to fast track this, then we suggest that we reduce the time from 3 to 1.5 hours, and also reduce speaking time. Honorable Speaker, I wish to request the Honorable Chepkonga to second. Honorable Chepkonga.
Honorable Chepkonga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Indeed, we agreed at the House Committee that we need to fast track the motions that have been pending in this House for members. So I second.
I therefore propose that, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 97-1, and notwithstanding the resolution of the House of Wednesday, 15th February 2023, this House orders that each speech in a debate on any motion introduced by an individual member be limited to the following manner. A maximum of 1.5 hours with not more than 10 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes in replying, and a maximum of 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, and that priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee, in that order. Is that the mood of the House? Before I put the question, I'll give Honorable Mboko and I'll give Honorable Makali Mulu. Then I'll put the question. Honorable Mboko.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for this chance. I think I want to support this motion because we noticed that this Parliament, the new members or the members who came in for the first time are very active, and we want to congratulate them because they are having so many motions that are private motions, and they are very active. To accommodate all of them and to allow every member exercise his power and also contribute, it is better that we actually reduce the time for the motions and also in sequence like you have already indicated and is indicated in the motion, we also reduce the time for speaking. This will give more members a chance to contribute and actually be felt by their own constituents on the ground. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I thought I should speak on this and support that motion greatly. Thank you, and congratulate the new members who are in the House.
Thank you, Member. Honorable Makalimulu.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also want to support this motion and make the following observations, even as I support it, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think it's important we thank the members who take the initiative to table motions in this House on debate. But at the same time, Honorable Speaker, you realize that when you look at majority of these motions, they are just urging the government. And I hope this motion is specific to motions, not bills. So, Honorable Speaker, I would want to really encourage the House Business Committee to start prioritizing bills, because these motions are just urging government. And for the time I've been in this House, and I believe I've been in this House long enough, Honorable Speaker, how I wish we could even reduce the time more, so that we allow more time for bills. Like now, Honorable Speaker, I have a bill which has been in this House since March, and I've not been able to get a slot. And then you see motions which are urging the government here, it just becomes a talk show. For me, I would really wish that the House Business Committee prioritize bills, and we have private members' bills which can be debated, which add value because they have the force of law. Most of these motions are just motions. So I really want to support and even urge the House Business to reduce the time further, so that we can even do in 45 minutes. People can talk, and then we get to serious business. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Makalimulu. I can confirm that the limitation from the motion is on motion and not bills. Therefore, members, I put the question that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 97-1 and notwithstanding the resolution of the House of Wednesday, 15 February 2023, this House orders that each speech in a debate on any motion introduced by an individual member be limited in the following manner: a maximum of 1.5 hours, with not more than 10 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes in replying, and a maximum of 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, and that priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of the majority party, the leader of minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee, in that order. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Before we go to the next order, allow me to recognize in our public gallery other schools that are visiting. Number 1, Olopikidogoe Primary School, Kilgoris, Narok County; Karumandi South Primary School from Geshogo constituency, Kirinyaga County. We welcome you in the National Assembly. Next order.
Order number 9, motion, introduction of comprehensive health education as a core subject in schools. Question to be put.
I put the question that, aware that improving public health is a fundamental responsibility of the government, and it is imperative to address pressing health problems faced by young people, including poor sexual and reproductive health, inadequate knowledge and information regarding sexual health, and protection against sexually transmitted infections, concerned that the current state of adolescent health training programs is inadequate and fragmented, resulting in limited access to healthcare information and services by the youth in this country. Further concerned that, as a result of these, young people face significant barriers in accessing comprehensive healthcare, cognizant that comprehensive sexual education through school-based programs, community-based programs, and healthcare facilities can promote health sexual practices amongst young people and reduce the spread of HIV/AIDS and other sexually transmitted infections, lower the incidences of teenage pregnancies, thus increasing school attendance and retention. Now, therefore, this House resolves that the national government, through the State Department of Basic Education, introduces comprehensive health, wellness, and sex education in the curriculum as a core subject in schools. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it.
Order number 10, the Kenya Information and Communications Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 52 of 2022, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Kenya Information and Communication Act and for connected purposes. Order number 11, the Higher Education Loans Board Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Higher Education Loans Board Act. Order number 12, the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 19 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Cancer Prevention and Control Act and for connected purposes. Order number 13, motion, establishment of a National Cancer Prevention and Control Fund.
This is a continuing motion. We have a balance of 13 minutes. Was there anyone on the floor? Honorable Munyanzi was on the floor. She's not in the house, so we'll give to the next member. And I know many have put to speak. Some have spoken to this. Kindly, if you want to speak to this motion, put an intervention. Then I'll be able to pick you from there. You're not allowed, you cannot donate because you've already spoken to the motion. I'll give the member for Kandui, Honorable John Makali.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to also weigh in on this motion brought by my very good friend, the member, Honorable Troy Teach. First, Honorable Speaker, cancer has claimed many lives in this country. Cancer is the third largest ailment that claims our people. And it is good that the Honorable Member has brought this motion so that we can be able to establish a fund that will be able to assist our people towards early treatment, early identification of cancer, and working on means to ensure that this ailment is prevented. It is heartening, Madam Speaker, that on today's order paper, we have a bill that is supposed to bring in the cancer to deal with the issues of cancer. But, Madam Speaker, we have established a National Cancer Center, but that National Cancer Center is not adequately funded. We pray that moving forward, we are going to appropriate sufficient funds at this House to enable the National Cancer Center to be fully operationalized. Cancer is now coming in many forms. Most people in the rural areas are selling their lands
selling their properties to ensure that we have cancer treated. We have not crossed the Rubicon as yet. And Madam Speaker, the establishment of a fund that will be able to assist our people get adequate, appropriate, and accessible treatment will be welcome to our people at this time and age, when most of our constituents, most of our people are going to outside countries, specifically India. We are exporting a lot of capital to India towards treatment of cancer. And if we got the fund established within our systems, we should be able to tackle this menace. I wish to thank the Honourable Member for bringing up this particular motion. And I hope that as we deal with the bill that has been proposed in order number 12 on our today's order paper, we should be able to inculcate this fund in that particular bill so that we can be able to deal with this menace of cancer that has claimed many of our lives, made very many families destitute, and really caused a problem in our society. Madam Speaker, I support this motion wholeheartedly and thank the member for bringing it up. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Makali. We'll now call the mover to reply on this motion, Honorable Timothy. It is time limited, Honorable Pukose. We had 3 minutes and 10 minutes for the mover to reply.
Madam Speaker, do you say 10 minutes?
Yeah, you have 10 minutes, but you can choose to donate some if you
Madam Speaker, I wish to donate 1.5 minutes to Honorable Donya and Honorable Phyllis Barto. 1.5 minutes, 1.5 minutes.
Donya. Clerk, please note that the mover is very, very economical with the minutes. So.
Oh, thank you, Madam Speaker. Issues to do with health are very important to our people, and the types of cancers that are there worry us a lot. Doctors indicate to us that you should be having a routine check. You can imagine we have blood cancer. You have to go for blood cancer test. There is colon cancer, prostate cancer, then breast cancer. Of all these cancers, Madam Speaker, what is easy to detect is breast cancer, because women, we are advised to be testing ourselves on that cancer. But what of those people, Madam Speaker, who have no information of these cancers and how they should be handled? So as I support my brother, Honorable Robert, also we should have cancer awareness, what our people need to know of the cancers. Some believe that we are not supposed to eat a particular food, this type of food, and at the end of the day, they found out that they are still suffering from the disease while they've taken the instructions of not eating some particular foods. So let us support this motion, and then we also make sure that we've made enough resources for the awareness of this monster. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Donya, Honorable Barto.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would also wish to thank the mover of the motion, Honorable Wakili Toroitich, for bringing this motion, which is very timely, on establishment of the Cancer Center and fund to support this menace. Madam Speaker, we agree that cancer has become a problem in our society. It has impoverished families, and it has reached a stage when people are diagnosed with cancer, they just give up. They just give up and wait for fate. And it is very difficult even for families who have patients. Madam Speaker, in my constituency, we receive calls every other day for support to talk to hospitals, to waive bills, or to even release bodies for burial because the families cannot afford. Madam Speaker, this bill is very timely. We need to have that fund so that there will be continuous sensitization and awareness to members of society on the do's and don'ts in as far as cancer is concerned, advice on diet, and also cater for the best practitioners who will be dealing with this problem of cancer. Madam Speaker, how I wish that we establish a center in every constituency and also avail resources so that there will be continuous testing and sensitization and awareness to the members of the society until that time when this problem is addressed fully. And my time is up. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you, Wakil.
Honorable Troitich.
Madam Speaker, Honorable Nimrod Bai has been on my neck. Madam Speaker, kindly allow me to donate 1 minute to him.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will be very brief. I want to thank my friend Wakili Torotich for the motion and also for the vote. Madam Speaker, cancer is a national disaster in our country, and because the only possible cure for cancer is early diagnosis. And the people in the villages, no facilities have the hospitals have no facilities for testing cancer. So the National Cancer Center, if established, should devolve the service, work with the county governments to get at least a room for the National Cancer Center in every constituency where people can be supported to go and have early diagnosis, because late diagnosis means death. Early diagnosis gives a possibility for one to be cured. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, honorable members. Madam Speaker, I wish to take this opportunity to sincerely thank the honorable members who substantively contributed towards this motion. Madam Speaker, the members who supported or who touched on this motion supported this motion both in substance. They supported the letter and the spirit of this motion. I sincerely, from the deepest part of my heart, thank the members for supporting this motion. Madam Speaker, this speaks to the issue of cancer in this country, because the overwhelming support, that is 100% support that this motion got in this House, means that indeed cancer is a menace, and as I said, cancer is an equivalent of a death sentence in this country. Madam Speaker, I gave the statistics, the harrowing statistics of cancer in this country. And Madam Speaker, I said that the current statistics point to that almost 100,000 people in this country are diagnosed annually with cancer. And out of that 100,000, the mortality rate, Madam Speaker, is 90,000. And I said, per month in this country, we are losing 7,500 people out of cancer. Per day, we are losing 250 people. Per hour, we are losing 10 people in this country out of cancer. So, Madam Speaker, cancer is a national disaster that we must be able to combat in this country. Madam Speaker, of special mention when contributing is Honorable Deputy Speaker Gladys Boss and Muchomba. And Madam Speaker, they talked about the pest, that is the Pest Products Control Board in this country, that the World Health Organization has banned 267 pesticides. But Madam Speaker, those pesticides are still operating in this country. They are being sold in this country. And the control board has not done anything to ban those pesticides. And Madam Speaker, of interest to mention is that there was a recent cancer screening in Uasin Gishu County. And it is reported that majority of those who are diagnosed with cancer are farmers, because they are the direct consumers of these of farm products, which is a consequence of these banned pesticide products. So Madam Speaker, I also call upon the Committee on Agriculture to look closely and to be able to analyze the pest products control board, so that they can be able to ban the products that have been banned by European countries and the World Health Organization, because that is the biggest challenge. Madam Speaker, those products are still on our shelves, and this House must do something so that those products are expunged from our shelves. Madam Speaker, what is the way forward? Madam Speaker, as we speak, I have already drafted a legislative proposal so that we anchor this fund in the National Cancer Control and Prevention Act. Madam Speaker, we have a very substantive legislation on cancer in this country, but the problem is we do not have proper enough funds so that the National Cancer Institute can be funded. So, Madam Speaker, this House must be deliberate, must be intentional in creating this fund. Madam Speaker, we shall amend, I shall propose an amendment to the existing legislation so that we anchor that particular fund in an act of Parliament so that that fund can be able to realize its objectives. Madam Speaker, these institutes must also be resourced so that they conduct research. Our National Cancer Institute was modeled alongside was modeled.
Your time is up, Honorable Toroitich. Under Standing Order 53, we'll defer the putting of the question on this motion. Before we go to the next motion, allow me to recognize again from the Speaker's Gallery, Janeiro Junior Academy from Rangwe constituency, Homa Bay County. Yes, welcome them. ACK St. Luke Academy from Thika Town, Kiambu County, seated at the Speaker's Gallery. We have Chebunyo Christian Academy from Chepalungu, Bomet County. And we also have a visiting delegation from St. Petersburg University in Russia who are seated in the Speaker's Gallery. Allow me on my own behalf and that of the House to welcome them to the National Assembly, and I'll indulge Honorable Omar Mwenyi to welcome the visiting delegation from Russia, but also the visiting students into the House.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for according me this opportunity. Would also like to welcome the visiting delegation from Russia. The head of this delegation is none other than Bolotiva Svilitana, who is the head of Special Projects Department at St. Petersburg University in Russia. She is accompanied by Sokina Kristina, who is a specialist in language testing at St. Petersburg University. And along with them is Vorontsova Irina, who is the Deputy Head of Admissions Office for International Applicants. So you are actually welcome in this Honorable National Chamber of the
Honorable Mwenyi, speak to the chair.
Madam Chair, I wish to welcome them to this chamber and to this Republic of Kenya. Enjoy the warm, of course, weather that we are enjoying in this country, and the good people of Kenya are ready to welcome you wherever you'll be visiting. Otherwise, for the students, we are also welcoming you to this chamber, and we urge you to work hard so that one of these good days in future, you'll also find yourself in this house, either as a member of Parliament, a senator, or a cabinet secretary. Thank you very much, and feel welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Omar Mwenyi. The next motion, before we go to the next motion, under order number 14, it's important to note that it will be affected by the procedural motion that we've already passed. It will have a maximum of 1.5 hours of debate. The mover will have a maximum of 10 minutes to move, 5 minutes to reply. The speakers, every other speaker, including the leader of majority and minority, will have a maximum of 5 minutes. So next order.
Order number 14, motion, development and implementation of a child care program for children whose parents are in lawful custody.
Honorable Brighton.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to move this motion. Development and implementation of child care program for children whose parents are in lawful custody. That aware that Article 53 of the Constitution provides for the right of children, including the right to free and compulsory basic education. Further aware that Section 22 of the Persons Deprived of Liberty Act and the Child Care Policy provides for the care of children whose parents is deprived of liberty until the child still require parental support further recognizing that majority of these children often suffer from emotional distress, social stigma and economic hardships, cognizant of the fact that all children should be accorded a means of maintaining their relationship with their incarcerated parents, noting that children have restricted economic resources available for their support, which in turn negatively impacts their lives. This House therefore urges the government through the State Department for Social Protection and Senior Citizens Affairs to develop and implement a program for the children of for the care of the children above the age of 4 years whose parents are under lawful custody. Madam Speaker, we are alive to the fact that many a times families fight, and when they fight, it may lead to death of one of the family members. And when the death occurs, one will have to be jailed for the killing or something related to that. Now, my question is, when that happens, what happens to the children? Sometimes these children are very young and vulnerable, between 0 years to 18 years, Madam Speaker. In cases where both parents also are arrested and jailed, what happens? Article 53 of the Constitution of Kenya of 2010 indicates that every child has the immediate right to free and compulsory education. Apart from the rights to health and the other rights that are enshrined in our Constitution, we must be able to protect these children when such things happen. It is welcome that and plausible initiative that the government is intending to give stipends to the village managers. It is also intending to extend the registration of the Inua Jamii program of registering the vulnerable in the society, those young children who are very vulnerable, the orphans, the old, those who are old in the society of over 70 years. It is in line with this that we are seeking the support of government to be able to also look at the incarcerated children whose parents have been jailed, so that they can also be part and parcel of those who are being registered and supported under this program. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I call upon Mheshimiwa Ngeleche to second.
Honorable Ngeleche.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to support the motion on development and implementation of a child care program for the children whose parents are in lawful custody. Madam Speaker, at times when parents are taken into lawful custody, you find that some parents are single. They leave their children with no one. At times they leave their children with the relatives who are not even able to stand with them, or who have even accused them of various offenses, Madam Speaker. And you find these children may end up being mentally tortured, or they suffer the stigmatization and accusation by the members of public for the mistakes not done by them, by their parents. As much as they might be innocent and they might be young, many people might not take good care of them, because they look at them in the lenses of their parents. And they might be isolated, stigmatized, demonized, and we end up bringing very crooked people in the society, or even people who will also end up being criminals because they have been brought up by already being labeled as criminals, and yet they are not the criminals, it is their parents. So, Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I beg to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I therefore propose that, aware that Article 53 of the Constitution provides for the rights of children, including the right to free and compulsory basic education, further aware that Section 22 of the Persons Deprived of Liberty Act and the Childcare policy provides for the care of a child whose parent is deprived of liberty until the child still require parental support, further recognizing that majority of these children often suffer from emotional distress, social stigma, and economic hardships, cognizant of the fact that all children should be accorded a means of maintaining their relationship with their incarcerated parents, noting that children have restricted economic resources available for their support, which in turn negatively impact their lives. This House therefore urges the government, through the State Department for Social Protection and Senior Citizen Affairs, to develop and implement a program for the care of children above the age of 4 years whose parents are under lawful custody. Again, members, those willing to speak to this motion, you can indicate. Honorable Abraham Kirwa.
Thank you again, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this motion of national policy, the development and implementation of childcare program for children whose parents are in lawful custody. Madam Speaker, it is very unfortunate for sure that most of the parents or some of the parents who are incarcerated or in custody have children at home. And when this happens, just because nothing had been put in place to make sure that those kids are catered for, the children end up suffering. No one to provide for them in terms of food, finances, clothing, and many things. As such, the relatives who are now responsible tend to either torture these children or tend to just neglect them, and then the children are left just like that. So some of the programs, Madam Speaker, that I think should be put in place as we talk about maybe looking for funding, we should look beyond funding, depending on the number of years the parents will be in custody. Because some of the offenses that the parents may have caused, they might be there life in prison. Some of them might be 20 years, 30 years. By the time they come back, their children will have grown up. Their children will have at least maybe, so if there will be nobody to provide for the schooling, these children will suffer. Some of them will end up in the streets. Some of them will end up being thugs. And as such, the government should step in and provide a system, not only money, but also a system where these children should be able to visit their parents in custody so that they will continue to have a relationship between the parent and the child. And then two, also programs to feed these children, also programs to provide their school fees, although the government may not have all the funding, but has to be a system where these kids will be catered for. So this is a motion, Madam Speaker, that all of us should look into it on a serious note to make sure that the leaders of tomorrow, which are these children, are really taken care of. And as such, I stand here to support the motion. And I thank the member for taking time to really bring this motion. I support the motion, Madam Speaker.
Member for Langata.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And I stand here to support the motion. In my constituency, I have the famous Langata women prisons. And anytime you walk into that place, you'd see the children that live with their parents in prison, and you can actually know that there's no any program or any funding that the government has put aside to be able to cater for the children whose parents have been incarcerated in the prisons. It's so sad that now when you talk about, say, for single parents, immediately the parent goes into prison, it actually renders the child an orphan, because some of the sentences that have been given maybe would be life imprisonment. And with that, it's just a direct separation of the children from their parents. Even if they have a chance to visit their parents in prisons, I can tell you what the children are going through is something that you not even wish for your worst enemy. Number one, with the Honorable bringing this motion, it is just not a motion that should just be discussed and be left here in Parliament. we request that the committee involved should actually go to the prisons to actually see firsthand experience of what these children are going through. Now, we are talking about the children who are living with their parents in prison, let alone those who are out here not knowing when their parents will come out of the prisons, who are now left to wander in the streets of Nairobi. You wonder why we have so many street children in all the urban areas. It's because they have nowhere else to go. They totally have no one to turn to. And the government must, in this 13th Parliament, put up a program for the children whose parents have been castrated. I want and I stand here to support the motion. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Before the next speaker, allow me to recognize other pupils and students in the speakers gallery. Upper Hill Academy from Bureti constituency, Kericho County. In the public gallery, Dr. Sturi Primary School, Bomet Central constituency in Bomet County. On my own behalf and of the House, we welcome you to observe the proceedings of the House. The next chance will go to the member for Bureti, Honorable Kibet Komingoi.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to be able to contribute to the motion that is on the floor about the children whose parents are under lawful custody. But before that, Madam Speaker, I would want to thank the visitors that have visited Parliament from the variety of schools, and especially from the school from Bureti, that they are much welcome to these chambers to be able to see the workings, the goings on, and also to inspire them on what is possible when they become a part of the larger society that seeks to both develop and also improve the society that we come from. We urge all the students to study hard and be a part of the responsible community of our nation. Madam Speaker, with regard to the motion that is before us, we come to the recognition that sometimes stuff happens in life that may lead to incarceration of parents, people who have children. And the question that actually comes on board, and I want to thank the Konoin MP for bringing to the notice of the nation that there are children of this nation, children of this country, that have suffered as a result of mistakes of others. And the mistakes of others include our parents, our brothers and sisters who may have committed crimes that have led to their incarceration and therefore unable to provide, tend, or to take care of their children. The question then we have is, what does the government have in plan to be able to take care of these citizens to grow into responsible citizens of our nation? The question we have is that we know that there is a social protection program being carried out under the Ministry of Interior, the Correctional Services, that take care of children 4 years and below. But as children grow, at 5 years, what happened to these children if the terms, the imprisonment terms of their parents is longer? The proposal that is being made, that the government takes up its duty to be able to protect these children, to school these children, and even defend them within the society and give them opportunities that they may be able to become responsible people and also participate in the development of this nation. This motion has come at such a time that we may need to discuss and put our ideas together so that we may be able to expand the social protection program that we have, or increase the funding of the correctional facilities that we have for the nation to be able to see to it that these children do not get criminalized as their parents have been, or do not get disadvantaged just because their parents are in custody. I support this motion and beg that maybe probably as we think through that we provide additional funding to either the correctional services or the social protection program under the Ministry of Labor to be able to undertake this duty. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Kitui West, Honorable Edith Nyenze.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this motion on maintenance of child custody, especially after the parents have lawfully been put into custody. Let me say that if the family structures were working, then we would talk about family members, the immediate family members, taking care of such children. But the family unit has really broken down, and that's why we are talking of the government coming in to take over the maintenance of these children from 4 years. So I would really say that the Social Protection Committee should also try to come up with legislation which would also support our members' bill, so that they can come up with that legislation on how these children can actually be protected by either through fostering. They can also be protected through adoption. They can also be protected through by having some centers for these children, and also that the ministry can also have follow-up on how these children are being treated, especially if they have been adopted by some family members, if they have been, because the best thing would actually not to put them in one place, but they should also be brought up in their family way, whereby they will also grow up as the other children, but with the love of the extended family members, but ensure that there is a strict follow-up on how, and reporting on how they are actually being treated. There should also be some funds which are set aside to maintain these children, so that they can also have a proper medical care, proper education, and the best maintenance as they wait for their parents to be released from custody. With that, Madam Speaker, I support.
Thank you. Member for Sotik, Honorable Francis Sigei.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also contribute on this very important motion. And on the onset, I would like to thank the MP Konoin, who is my neighbor, for sponsoring this motion. Madam Speaker, children are very vulnerable. And the first thing in mind to me is about those children who are taken with their mothers in custody. It really worries me, because these children, from the word go, they undergo a lot of problems. And, Madam Speaker, I would like to support this motion and ask the government to ensure that these children are given proper attention when they are in custody, especially in terms of health care, in terms of social support, and also in terms of orientation towards life. Because, Madam Speaker, you can imagine what kind of life is in prison, and that small child who is growing up in a very difficult and awkward situation. And when you come out there, for those who are left by their mothers, it is very worrying, particularly that even the extended family system, which we have nowadays, cannot support these people with the economic situation. Madam Speaker, I would like that we think of legislation on how we can enhance the social protection measures which can give these children more hope in their future. We want to raise these children, Madam Speaker, to be good citizens of this country. And the best thing to do is for the government to have deliberate measures on what to do to these children when they are out there, and they may not get the special support which we normally get from the extended family system. Madam Speaker, I would like to propose and support this motion because of the shock of psychological effects of these children. We need to support them, because unless we do it, Madam Speaker, we will have children who are going to be stigmatized for the rest of their life. Madam Speaker, I support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next chance will go to the member for Mwingi West, Honorable CNN.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute and to add voice on this motion. Onset, I would like to thank Honorable Breton for bringing up this motion, because he understands the plight of children who have been actually left by the parents who are under custody. Madam Speaker, I would like to remind the House that children are our treasure, our future, and any society that takes care of children actually strengthens our nation, and also they take care of our fabric of our society. Madam Speaker, some of these children who come from a violent kind of atmosphere, and when their parents are in custody, they undergo several challenges in terms of medical care, health care, lack of food security, and even lack of basic necessities, Madam Speaker. That is why if we can actually have a social protection welfare, just similar to the one we are taking care of the elderly, Madam Speaker, these funds can really help them towards their education, their food security, and also their school and even clothing, Madam Speaker. Without doing so much on it, this is a rather straightforward motion, Madam Speaker. I support.
Thank you. Before the next speaker, allow me to recognize in the speakers gallery Retire Primary School from Daragwa constituency, Nyandarua County. Join me in welcoming them to observe the proceedings of the House. The next chance will go to the member for Kipkelion West, Honorable Hilary Kosgei.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the motion by the Konoin MP, the Honorable Brighton, on these children who are deprived of their liberty because of the circumstances their parents find themselves in. And Madam Speaker, sitting in the Social Protection Committee, it has come to my attention and the attention of the committee that the whole world is pumping resources to secure the vulnerable members of their societies, including these deprived children. And in our laws, Madam Speaker, there are those children we call circumstantial children, who are born either when the parent is incarcerated and are born in prisons, and they have a right to education from age 1 to 4. But this program on circumstantial children, Madam Speaker, does not cater for the other many children who find themselves probably orphaned because the parents fought and they were imprisoned and they are left vulnerable. So, Madam Speaker, we are calling on the expansion and probably to ask the member and to ask this House to support in terms of finances the Social Protection Department under the Labor Ministry, so that it can expand programs of this nature up to and including developing special schools for free education for children under this category, either from childhood up to the time they attain 18 years, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, there are many circumstances that lead to this. We ignore it most of the time. But time has come as a nation that we must make sure that we leave no child behind as we plan for the progress and development of the better children who are lucky to have parents. So, Madam Speaker, I support this motion and urge that this House considers additional funding to the State Department for Social Protection towards this endeavor. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Makwiny, Honorable Susan Kiamba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this time to make my contribution on this very important motion. First and foremost, I think it's important to realize that every Kenyan matters, and so more so to these children who find their parents in custody and they are denied an opportunity to grow up like other children in families. We realize that when you go to some of this particular area, you realize that there are families that have cycles or people going to jail. And I believe one of the circumstances is that when a child is born and finds very harsh environment where the mother or the parents are in custody, and the child has to, some of them have even to grow up seeing the mother jailed. I've even wondered, when you are jailed with your child, should you take full term? Because those are two people actually being jailed on your behalf. So I think it's important that we provide some families with a lot of income per capita, and we have very weak areas where we have these children being neglected. Then we have cyclic issues where we have families that continue to have people also going to jail, because as you grow up and you found your mother in jail, you also start appreciating evil because of that particular environment. So I think this is very important motion, and we think to support it. The other point I would like to put across is the psychosocial trauma. When the only guardian you know, and as a mother or a father is in custody, and you are left all on your own, the psychosocial trauma that affects these children sometimes denies them opportunity to ever become anything. So I think this motion is timely, and I think we all need to support it, because when we support it, we are supporting our nation, we are supporting the weak and the vulnerable. And that way, as a nation, we will actually advance, because every Kenyan matters. So I really support this motion, and I thank the member who has brought it. Thank you.
The member for Changamwe.
Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And first and foremost, I would also like to congratulate the member for Konoin for bringing up this motion, which aims at addressing a problem that is in society. Madam Speaker, it is a fact that parents are a vital portion in our upbringing, and they provide, of course, warmth, love, guidance, assurance, and proper upbringing. In life, Madam Speaker, practically the mother is the one who plays the most crucial role in the children's upbringing. And in most families these days, we are degenerating into single parenthood, especially the fathers are becoming less responsible. And if you hear of people getting imprisoned, you find it is the mothers who are the ones who are going to jail mostly. And in such scenario, you find, Madam Speaker, it begins with a simple cases in the village, which could be dealt with by the elders of the village, including the chief. But most people end up just going to the police station, and unfortunately our police officers are not trained to try to solve simple problems. Sometimes they even take advantage of such situation to seek for money out of such cases. And if you don't part with money, then your case ends up in court, and sometimes you are given a sentence which is not actually commensurate to the crime that, of course, has been committed. Perhaps in this regard, Madam Speaker, I would urge the provincial administration, especially now that we have passed the bill to pay the village elders, to try as much as possible to advise, the community, to try to use alternative, dispute resolution, so that we do not have simple cases which can be sorted out ending up in courts and perhaps imprisonment. Then, Madam Speaker, when addressing this challenge, I want to give an example of a philanthropist in Mombasa by the name of Hasu, or famous known as Mombasa Cement, who feeds about 3,000 to 5,000 people in a day. If such a person can do such a an activity, I believe the government can do even better than that. So perhaps using the same administration where we have the chief and the village elders, something can be done so that in case a parent is in prison, then something can be organized, the funding can be there to make sure these children are well taken care of. However, I would also urge, Madam Speaker, that sometimes the judges and the magistrates also take time to visit the prisons, to have an interview with those who are in there incarcerated, so that at least they can review these cases to make sure those which of course are found to be of lesser criminal activity, they can be released to go and join their families so that they can provide the much needed guidance to their children. Madam Speaker, we are living in difficult times today, where even getting money for the daily sustenance is a challenge. So if the mother is put in incarceration for even 6 months, it becomes quite a challenge, especially to these young kids who are very important to this nation. Since we believe that a nation is built by its people, and the young people are the ones who are going to grow into proper and, of course, responsible adults, I urge this House and the government to take this motion seriously and to make sure everything is done to pave the way for funds to be set aside so that funds, families that are caught in this situation can get assistance, and perhaps the other areas that we have mentioned can also be addressed. Madam Speaker, I thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I thank the member for...
Thank you so much. Before I give to the next contributor, I wish to recognize Ololtoto Boarding Primary School from Narok North constituency in our county in the public gallery, and Tharua Primary School from Laikipia East, Laikipia County, the Speaker's Gallery. They are welcome to follow the proceedings of the House this morning. The Honorable Mary Omase, Teso South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also join colleagues to contribute to this very important motion. Honorable Speaker, as a mother, every time we see a child suffering, every time we see a child dropping out of school because probably a parent was jailed for one reason or the other, every time, Honorable Speaker, we see children becoming hopeless because probably the only dependent, who was a parent, has got into some kind of trouble and was jailed. Our hearts cry out to those children, Honorable Speaker. So when I saw this motion this morning, proposing for establishment of a fund for protection of these children, I felt, Honorable Speaker, I have to speak to this. Honorable Speaker, Section 53 of the Constitution, as already alluded to by the move of this motion, recognizes the right of all children to be protected from abuse, from any form of violence. And it's a right for every child to grow up in a conducive environment, in an environment where there is love, in an environment where there is a counselor, somebody they can trust and look up to and confide in and get guidance and get counseling. Grow up in an environment where they can become responsible and important citizens as they grow up. But in an event that when a child loses that kind of guidance, loses that counselor, the person they can look up to open up to when they have a problem, support them, then we are likely to lose a society, we are likely to lose a generation. So those children born out of such kind of parents who have found themselves in prison deserve to be protected and to be provided for like any other child. So, Honorable Speaker, I support this motion and I urge honorable colleagues to support it. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Busia, the Honorable Catherine Omanyo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is something that is very close to my heart. Being somebody who almost, I can say, like I raised myself, absenteeism of these responsible adults can really make a negative impact on a child when they are coming up, or if a parent is incarcerated, being in conflict with the law is not easy, because as a parent, first, when you look at that picture, you are not a free human. You are either a suspect, a victim, or convicted. And all that cannot make you a good parent at that time, because so many things happen. And this motion, I support fully. The member of Parliament, who I really respect, having brought it here, is talking for the majority who are in silence. Children in such situations need a lot of assessment going on, a lot of monitoring going on, and parents in prison need a lot of freedom to anytime go see their children. Because a child being in prison is not a prisoner. It's only the parent maybe who is a prisoner. And many children who find themselves, either those who are maybe outside prison, but their parents are in prison, or are in prison with their parents, they come up and live in fear most of the time, left alone, and there is nothing you can do about it. It makes somebody be anxious and unsettled. People who have done psychology can easily pick it up, but people who have not done psychology can give such children names. I have been called names before, but few people who matter and care have dug down to understand why some of these things happen. So children who have been raised and know that anytime mommy will be gone or will never be there, or even if I see her, it is calculated, minuted when I have her, they live in a very environment that they cannot even understand themselves. So it is the government's responsibility to make sure that they build an establishment for mothers or fathers with their children. This time most people look at mothers, but also we have fathers who are left with children and unfortunately can be in prison. So we must have a safe haven, an establishment that can make sure that even though you are a mother or a father in prison with your child, there is still somewhere you can have some space for being a mother, or a child, making sure there is that assurance that actually mommy is still there, daddy is still there, even if they are having this conflict with the law. Also, we have treated or seen people in prison as rogue, or people who are unapproachable, or people who should be feared. And mostly when children see how even the police guards in there treat these prisoners, when they see what happens every day, these children grow up missing something. And if not well cared for or well counseled, they come out to be also very rebellious, because that is what they see. And they come out to be not part of a solution in the society when they are finally outside prisons. So actually we should have in every prison a school, a proper social amenity, an establishment where it looks like a home away from home for children like those, because we should always keep in mind as a nation that a child who is born in prison or was arrested with the mother or daddy and they are in prison.
Member for Gilgil, Honorable Martha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to add my voice to this motion, and I want to congratulate Honorable Brighton Yegon for sponsoring it. And this motion, Mr. Speaker, is actually covering even wider issues that should be open to debate and to national conversation. Because, Mr. Speaker, children do not make application on where they are to be born. Just yesterday, we had the end of the International Breastfeeding Week. And my question is, if you're arrested and you have a breastfeeding child, do we actually have a way to ensure that child gets to breastfeed to the recommended WHO 6 months that is exclusive, and to 2 years as recommended, Mr. Speaker, to boost their immunity? So, Mr. Speaker, this issue, and I think during the time that Honorable Mudi Awori was the minister, there are some serious reforms and drafts of reforms that happened in the correctional facilities, and I want to join Honorable Jalas or Felix of Langata to say that this issue actually should be transmitted to the Social Protection Committee or the Labor Committee of this House. They actually should make an inquiry and a visit to the correctional facilities so that we are able to know how many children are languishing with their parents in jails and don't get an education, which, by the way, is a constitutional right under Article 53. Do not get to enjoy a comprehensive medical care or cover, which is another right by the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. They should actually visit these correctional facilities, let us know how many children we are talking about, and even to the President, Mr. Speaker, and to the power of mercy. The many offenders that are in the jails and our correctional facilities today, you will find some that are hardcore criminals, women, Mr. Speaker, but most of the women incarcerated are petty offenders, Mr. Speaker. So even when we are doing pardons, these are the people we should actually consider first, because we would want to unite them to their families, Mr. Speaker. And as has been said by many members, gone are the days that we used to be sure that if you leave your child with your extended family, they are safe. No longer, Mr. Speaker, because even when you leave young kids with their relatives, how many incidences have we seen of defilement, have we seen of incest, have we seen of sexual abuse propagated by members of the family, Mr. Speaker? That way, this broken family unit then sends these children to the streets where they are more vulnerable, not only to disease, to abuse. They lack the education, they lack the medical cover, and these, Mr. Speaker, are constitutional and even in the international treaties provided for children, Mr. Speaker. So this motion is quite heavy, and I hope that the member for Koloin can actually pick it up either by an ad hoc committee or to the existing committees in this house, so that they do a fact-finding tour of all the correctional facilities. Mr. Speaker, as Honorable Makali Mulu had said earlier, these motions at the end of the day, and we've seen that in the previous parliaments, may end up here. And when you say urges the government, we agree we should urge the government. But in terms of deliverables, who does the follow-up of these motions, Mr. Speaker? And this also goes to the Committee of Implementation in this House. How many motions have we assented to so far in this 13th Parliament? How many have actually started being implemented? Does it need to be a bill? And how do you hold into account this House in terms of implementing these motions, Mr. Speaker? So I think it calls to a bigger responsibility. The Committee of Implementation, the Social Protection Committee, the Labor Committee, all these committees, Mr. Speaker, must work hand in hand to ensure that children, who are the very important persons in this country and this republic, Mr. Speaker, are not left behind. Because when we speak of the SDGs, when we speak sustainable development goals, and we say leaving no one behind, and yet no one speaks for the children, because children will not be members of parliament in this house when they are minors. It is us to speak for them, because we are parents and we are representing them, Mr. Speaker. And even if they do not vote, we actually are their voice. So I hope that this can be truncated to even a bigger agenda to actually do a fact finding, so that we can be able to tell what correctional measures can be done. And more importantly, the committee of implementation in this house must be able to table reports on the already churned out very many motions that have been assented to, and very many bills that have been assented to know how far have we gone in implementation. I thank again Honorable Brighton Yegon, and I support the motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Abdul Haro of Mandera South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me the opportunity to put my voice and contribute to this important motion on the development of implementation of a childcare program for children whose parents are in lawful custody. And I must take this opportunity to thank Honorable Brighton Yegon for coming up with this very timely and most welcome motion at a time when we know a lot of things are happening in all our societies all over the world in relation to children and the rights of children and the welfare of children. Honorable Speaker, the arrest of a child can have a significant impact the arrest of a parent can have significant impact on the child, especially if the arrest happens in the presence of a child. We are living in a society where children face a lot of challenges around us. We talk about the drug menace. You talk about sex pests who are lurking around in all our villages and all our societies. And looking at this motion, I think safeguarding children of arrested parents have a lot of importance. They have a lot of benefits to the child. For example, in supporting immediate and future physical, emotional, and psychological well-being of a child. It also helps in maintaining continued relationship between child and the parent, especially when if the program takes into consideration the visits and the kind of coordination between how a child and the parents can keep communication with each other, even though the parent is in custody. Children development, certain impacts, it also has impact on the child's development, especially in relations to how the children will even in future view the police force, especially if the arrest happens in front of a child. It might have some lifelong impact on the child, to the effect that it can also determine how the child will view the police and the law enforcement in general as they grow up. Looking at the prayer that Honorable Brighton Yegon has asked, that we urge the government through the State Department of Social Protection and Senior Citizen Affairs to develop and implement a program for the care of children above the age of 4 years whose parents are under lawful custody. I think we should not urge, we should actually compel, this House should compel the government to develop, through the State Department of Social Protection, to develop and implement a program for childcare. I'm a pastoralist, and we normally say, today's calf is tomorrow's cow. And therefore, a child today is going to be a future president of this country, is going to be a future MP, is going to be a future senator, is going to be a future CS, and therefore safeguarding the future of this child now will mean we'll have a better society as Kenyans in future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you. The Honorable Adipo Andrew Okome of Karachuonyo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to add my voice to this motion. And I want to thank Honorable Yegon for bringing it up. Mr. Speaker, the life the child goes through at the beginning of his life on this planet shapes its future. It is therefore important that the nation must care about this child. The mistakes, the offenses a parent commits, whether the parent is a father or a mother, surely should not be allowed to affect the life of this child forever. A child learns not only from the parents, but also from the community. What happens next home shapes the future of a child. A child begins to see someone within the community as his role model. If the child is sent to prison with his mother, for example, because normally it is with the mother, not the father. If the child is sent to prison, who can that child think of as his role model? Would it be one of the jailbirds in prison with his mother? Allowing the child to go through that kind of situation is a failure on the nation. It is failing everybody. I therefore support the idea of creating a program that will make the child continue with the normal experience of growing in life, so that the child can find a more effective, useful, beneficial, and productive life when the child matures up. I think it is important that we compel the government, like my colleague mentioned, we compel the government to come up with a program that can be practical for the life of the child, a program that will make the child avoid seeing the horrors that happens in jail. Otherwise, if a child is allowed to go through that, the child will be part of those bad things that may be happening in jail. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for having given me opportunity to contribute to this, as I support the motion. Thanks.
Thank you. The Honorable Shakil Shabir of Kisumu East.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to strongly support the motion by my brother Honorable Brighton Yagon. The issue of the childcare program that has been proposed, especially after the year of 4, is one that has been recommended and one has been looked at everywhere in the world. Mr. Speaker, sir, we as Kenyans are always the first people to go and sign these so-called United Nations declaration on this or United Nations declaration on that. In 2020, the United Nations rules on treatment of children, women prisoners and their children, was signed by us, never rectified, just signed. We all sign and rectify and do nothing about it. We also went to the African, there is the African Charter on Rights and Welfare. We signed there. Those are rules that they have put together, and they're very important. Children who are children of prisoners, either men or women, mother or father, suffer emotional distress and stigma. Whose parents are in prison are unable, are the highly invisible, are very invisible in prison, and invisible as far as a group, and highly exposed. They're exposed to so many other things as well as vulnerable. They're exposed to sexual harassment, they're exposed to name calling. Their whole spirit is broken, Mr. Speaker, sir. The spirit of the child is already broken when they see his mother, or especially women, see their mother incarcerated. The spirit of the child is further broken when they are now being, they have the stigma they're living with. The rights of the children remain unacknowledged in our criminal system, Mr. Speaker. You are a lawyer, sir. They are not even acknowledged. They're never even looked at when the judge is looking at the sentence. It really does not bear. Sometimes even the children are not brought out, and they're immediately taken into the social children's homes, where they are further traumatized, where they are further misused. And then these are the children who will grow up with a distaste and a disgust for the system. And they are the ones who will fight us and fight the system for no other reason other than the fact that they were treated like dirt. They were treated like they are not required. You know, Mr. Speaker, sir, my investigation shows me, and I might be wrong in this, there are nearly 2,000 children currently in the Kenyan jails. 2,000. I may be wrong, but even if there's 200, that's still a lot. And I think one of the things we need to do, and I urge my colleague, that we need to have an investigation. We need to ask the committee to go and actually identify every child who is accompanying his mother, or him or her accompanying the parents in prison. We need to know whether that prison has, as a school, my constituency, I have the Kibos prison. And you know the Kibos prison school, Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker, sir, is one of the better schools in the area. And it has never been supported heavily by the prison authorities, because they say they never have much funds. The Ministry of Education also has this stigma attached to it, because if you are a school in a prison, they don't give it much. They don't give it much thought, and they put also the teachers they put there are very mediocre. So the rights of the children, as I said, are not acknowledged in the system, and we need to have some clarity. The clarity in law and the clarity.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Samburu East, Honorable Montari.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this chance. I also want to support this motion, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when parents are put in lawful custody, the family suffers, especially the children. It will be a lot of disorientation from the children. And it is very important, Mr. Speaker, if these children are being taken care of, the needs of the family where parents are not there and their young children needs the government to come in and take care of them. Mr. Speaker, you look at the needs of the children, including the school, all the needs they require, there is nobody left to take care of them. And Mr. Speaker, the growth of the children when their parents are not there will really be affected negatively because of the absence of their parents. And I think, Mr. Speaker, this motion is a very important motion that we really need to work on it so that the government has an obligation of the children where parents are in those prisons. And Mr. Speaker, the government of Kenya have tried to take care of even the orphans. And these children where parents are missing, Mr. Speaker, I think they are almost like those orphans, because some people will go to prison for very many years. And all those years, Mr. Speaker, they will really matter to that kid. And I think it is a very important motion We want to work on it, and it is really a very important motion to be implemented. And Mr. Speaker, we have lost so many children because of this. So I think it is good for this House to work on it, and we support it so that our children who are left, parents, some parents even jailed for years, and they have left their children. So I think it is a very important motion, Mr. Speaker. I want to support it, and thank you for the chance. This is a very important motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Fatuma Mohammed of Migori.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I want to comment and support this, saying that children are our future.
The Honorable Tindi Mwale, my board shows that Fatuma was definitely ahead of you in terms of logging and asking for time. So we just bid for your time. Go ahead, Honorable Fatuma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Today we have children seated in the gallery, and they need to know that they are our future, and we value them most. The Kenyan government need to take it very seriously to consider the situation of the children who are in custody with their parents. Some of the parents are innocent. Some of the parents are not innocent. But the bottom line is that parent in jail is going through emotional stress. That emotional stress is streamed down to the child because the child does not understand why she or he is confined in that room where the mother is. So I am urging the government that this is something that we need to take very serious, because mostly you find that it's women who are in jail that are in jail with their children. Luckily, father leave their mothers out and the children are taken care of by the mothers. But children under 4 years, we are told, Honorable Speaker, that before the child gets to 6 years, the brain is empty. So whatever you put in that brain is what will carry that child to the age where I am, where you are, and our elder parents. So below 6 years is an age that we need to take very seriously to help them grow. Apart from the mother being taken care of, the child needs emotional support. We have so many counselors who can counsel these children. They need psychological help so that the child can understand that the situation she or he is not permanent, and it is not her mistake or his mistake to be there. So the government should not just be urged, should take it very seriously. The ministry concerned should take it very seriously that the children are helped so that when they get out of the situation where the mother or the father is, they can continue and live a decent life, knowing that that was not a sentence to his or her life. Mr. Speaker, some of the children in jail are sick, and they don't get proper treatment. There are conditions that need proper treatment. A child suffering from, an example, asthma. During cold season, the mother does not even have a warm clothing for herself. The children suffer more. Mothers who are breastfeeding need to be given more care because the child needs to be breastfed, and the mother needs different food other than the other mothers or other women who are in prison with them. So, Mr. Speaker, the prison has been neglected, not just the children only, but we need to work on our prisons so that the child is taken care of just as the parent is also taken care of. You might have done a mistake, but prison is for correction. It's not for judgment that you will die there with in a disparate situation. It is an institution that is supposed to correct the bad behavior that you had when you are out. And so the child should not made to understand otherwise, that my mother is a prisoner because my mother was a bad girl, so I grow knowing that my mother is a bad girl. Psychological help is what we need more than anything else. It must be accompanied by education. The child needs to be given an opportunity to go to a proper school in the prison, so that when the child comes out, life can be normal for that child like any other children. For the children who are in prison, I am very sure they are not able to watch us, but when guardians go to visit them, Please help the child know that there is God. Help the child know that this country cares for them. Help the child know that mommy is in prison, but mommy is a good girl, and when mommy comes out, God willing, mommy will change her character, and so you are not prisoned, it is mommy who is in prison. I pray that one day those children will come out, and one day one of them will be a women representative of Migori County, one will be a governor of Migori County, one will be the president of Kenya, one will be a director, one will be a CEO. Dear children, who knows other children whose mothers are in prison? Those who are above 4 years who are within school, please tell them they are good children and their parents are good children, but mommy did a small mistake, that mommy has gone for correction, and when mommy comes out, mommy will be a good girl. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well said. I wish to recognize in the public gallery pupils from Mangoto Primary School, from Marawa constituency in Murang'a County, and students from Kituro High School, Baringo Central constituency, Baringo County. They are welcome to follow the proceedings of the assembly this morning. Honorable Tindi Mwale.
Asante sana Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, naanza na kupongeza mwenzangu ambaye ni Mheshimiwa Brighton Yegon kwa kuleta mswada ambao ni wa umuhimu sana, ambao unaongea kuhusu kutengeneza mikakati ya kuangalia vile watoto ambao wazazi wamezuiliwa kizimbani watanawiri na kuishi maisha ambayo ni mema na ambayo haina ubaguzi. Bwana Spika, naanza na kusema ya kwamba kisheria mtoto anafaa apate ile ambayo tunasema ni kwa kimombo wanaita basic need, ambayo inakuwa ni mavazi, alafu pia kuna mahali pa kuishi na kuna chakula, na hii inafaa itolewe na ipeanwe na wazazi. Kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, utapata mzazi akishazuiliwa, mtoto anakosa ule ambaye atamshughulikia mambo ya mavazi, ule atamshughulikia mambo ya chakula, na ule atamshughulikia mahali ambapo ataishi. Kwa hivyo nataka kupongeza mwenzangu ambaye amesema tukuje na mikakati, miundo msingi ambayo itaangalia maslahi ya watoto ambao wazazi wamezuiliwa kizimbani kisheria, na pia tujue ya kwamba ukitaka Kenya inawiri katika miaka ambayo inakuja, lazima uzingatie miundo msingi mzuri kwa watoto ambao ndio watakuwa viongozi na wafanyikazi na walimu na hata madaktari wa kesho wa nchi yetu ya Kenya. Kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, nataka kuunga mkono hii mswada ya mwenzangu na kusema kwamba serikali inafaa ikuje na izingatie vile watoto wa wazazi ambao wamezuiliwa wataweza kusaidiwa, kuangaliwa vile wataenda shule, kuangaliwa hata kama ni wagonjwa tujue matibabu watapata vipi, na pia masomo na vyakula wanaenda kukula vipi. Kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, mimi naweka uzito na kuunga mkono hii mswada ya mwenzangu ikisema kwamba watoto ambao wazazi wamezuiliwa wapewe kipaumbele. Asante sana.
Thank you. Member for Undanyi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to join my colleagues to support the motion brought into the House by Honorable Brighton Yegon to develop and implement childcare programs for children whose parents are in lawful custody. Honorable Speaker, indeed this motion comes in timely. We as a country, we have laws that protect the rights of children. We have laws that speak about the rights of even women and other people who are in lawful custody. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, this House stands a chance to write or to improve the legislation, the legislative infrastructure of this country. Honorable Speaker, in this country we have all our prisons. I'm sure many of them allow children that are under 4 years to join their mothers when they're in lawful custody, and they therefore provide some minimum basic early childhood development programs that may not compare to what we have outside the prisons, but we know Kenya prisons is doing something about it. Honorable Speaker, but this motion speaks to those children that are above 4 years, and these are children that cannot join their mothers while they are in custody. Honorable Speaker, we must support this policy so that our prisons, our women who are in prison today, are able to know that even if they are serving their, their lawful term in prison, their children that they leave behind are able to access basic education, they're able to be protected. We know, Honorable Speaker, that these children that their mothers are in custody, first and foremost, they face discrimination. They are traumatized in a manner that they are mocked by their, if they're in primary school, they're mocked by their fellow pupils in schools, that your parents are not there because they're in prison. And therefore they grow, if they're not taken care of, psychologically these kids are affected in a big way. And therefore the government has a responsibility. This Parliament has a responsibility to come up with laws that will protect these children in a manner that they will grow as, to be responsible citizens. They will grow without, being traumatized. And as well, they are able to find education without really, looking at around relatives who, in many times, they are not taken care of well, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in my constituency, I have a prison that is home to very many women who, some of them who have children below 4 years, the children are in school that was started by a county government some years back. But we have so many that their children are at home, and these children are suffering from, they are very vulnerable. They face serious risks, Honorable Speaker, in the sense that we have a case in point of a child who is 5 years old, and the mother is in custody. This mother lived alone in a shanty. This mother did not have, a support structure, family that would support her. And therefore, this child, when the mother was taken in custody, the child also followed the mother to prison. And the child, luckily we have one officer of the prison, Senior Superintendent Justina, who has, recently she won an African award. She's really trying to, make sure that that child does not, fall into hands of predators and, does not suffer that the mother is in lawful custody. Honorable Speaker, I'm also reminded of United Nations had adopted a charter or rules that they're called 70 rules that take care of or give higher, premium to women who are in custody, and they're advising, legislatures, they're advising the legal system, the judiciary. If when they're passing a judgment to women, they must underscore, they must remember that these women fall into a different category of people, and therefore they should give them lesser years in prison or lesser sentences so that they can, get out as soon as possible and rejoin with their families, Honorable Speaker. This, Honorable Speaker, I support, and therefore I urge this House to keep supporting women, particularly those who have children and they're in lawful custody. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Samburu, the Honorable Ingris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this motion, which is a very important motion for the life of our children. Mr. Speaker, we know that the children are our responsibility and also the responsibility of this nation. We know that once parents are separated from their children, Mr. Speaker, the children go through a lot of stress and a lot of challenges. The children normally need a lot of care, especially when they are still young, at the age of 4 and above. And when they are separated from their parents, they really suffer because no one is there to take care of them. Mr. Speaker, in African tradition, children belong to the society. But nowadays, we have seen a lot of changes that children depend on their parents entirely. And once these children are separated from their parents, they suffer a lot of problems because no one is there to take care of them. They suffer a lot of social problems, spiritual care. They also lack economic power and economic support. Some of them also get out of school because no one is also will be there to take care of their education, and also they also suffer because no one is there to take care of their medical requirements or medical support. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member who has thought about this kind of support for our children, because children belong to the society and children belong to this nation. And we always say that our children are our tomorrow leaders. So I want to support the member who has brought this kind of the motion, that our department should come up with the programs that will support our children when they are separated from their parents. We also understand, Mr. Speaker, that most of the parents get themselves into unlawful activities as they struggle to provide for their children. Those who go to charcoal burning, sometimes they are arrested in the forest. Those who engage into unlawful activities to be able to provide for their children. And sometimes they suffer because they suffer because they also want to provide for their children. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member and support this kind of the motion, so that the Department of Social Protection should come up with programs that can support our children in terms of spiritual support, in terms of economical support, and also in terms of their education, and also provide in the absence of their parents. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Member for Suba South.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I rise to support this motion, which is urging the government to develop and implement a childcare program for children whose parents are incarcerated. And Honorable Speaker, I would like to speculate that our dear colleague, Honorable Brighton Yegon, was probably inspired by Matthew 25 in the Bible, which says, "For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me." Honorable Speaker, I would like to make some suggestions that should go on record as part of what should form that childcare program. Number one, I would like to propose that in developing that childcare program, the government or the State Department concerned should establish a foster care program for the children whose parents are incarcerated. I think there should always be somebody standing in loco parentis with respect to those children. And the first point of call should be the other parent, if it is one parent who is incarcerated. And the second one should be a relative, a close relative, or a foster home or a child care home. But I think there should be very clear guidelines as to how those processes should be handled in case one parent or both parents have been incarcerated. The second one I would like to propose is that the government also considers establishing a special bursary scheme for the children whose parents are in prison for purposes of their education. I once had the opportunity to be the first person, I think, to conduct a harambe in Kamiti Maximum Prison for a friend of mine who had spent 18 years there. And his children became of age and he needed money to educate them at the university. So with the late Commissioner Isaiah Osugo, may God rest his soul in eternal peace, we went there and raised quite a bit of money, again with fellow prisoners contributing and other prison staff. And we were able to educate his children, one of whom is today an engineer. So I would like to add that there is a special bursary for their education established specifically for those who are children from vulnerable families. There should be no non-termination of parental rights. I think children should continue to visit their parents in prison, and after post-release, there should be a way of reuniting them together with their parents and connecting them and giving them psychosocial support. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I think the program should also have a core component of training the caregivers or social services providers who will be taking care of these children in the absence of their parents. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support the motion. Thank you very much.
Whose card has not worked, and I'm told she was here among the first people. If your card is not working, it's good to let the clerks know. Yeah, so that chance is yours now. You just kept, she's been here since I sat on this seat.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for...
Order. Honorable Ndikiri, you must not speak on every motion. Must you? Because you cannot sit on your seat and tell the Speaker you've not spoken. It's not the way it's done. You're a seasoned member. You know how it works. Honorable McLaughlin, you can't walk in here and then you say you've not spoken. It's never done like that. You come, you log in your card, then when you are reached, you have your chance. You cannot lie on your seat and then you say, I've not spoken. Go ahead, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support the motion by my Vice Chair in the Committee of Agriculture. But before I do that, I wish to also take this opportunity to welcome the students, the peoples from Manyata constituency that is in Embu County, who are visiting with us and are in the gallery. And so feel welcome and ensure that discipline and hard work and the right attitude towards education is key. And now to the motion of the day by the Vice Chair, Agriculture, who is Honorable Brighton. I wish to say that when we are talking about these mothers or fathers in custody, they could be either a single father or a single mother, yet they have left behind the children of the ages that we have been discussing about in this parliament. Others could be in custody, whether they created some offenses or not. But we are here as Parliament to look into how or what are the modalities that can be used to ensure that these children are supported. These children, Mr. Speaker, they go through a lot of challenges like ridicule from their neighbors, emotional stress. They also go through a lot of stigma and trauma, and also no proper parenting from the parents that are in custody. Also, they lack role model people that they can turn to, and psychological effects, notwithstanding that these students and these children need a lot of counseling. Mr. Speaker, allow me to highlight that just like we have the Inua Jamii program that takes care of the vulnerable children, the elderly and those kind of categories, the government can come into the rescue of these children and even be incorporated in the Inua Jamii program because they are vulnerable, and even as they think about setting up a fund to educate these children and take care of the needs of these children, the first issue that can be dealt with is to incorporate them in the next coming exercise for registration in the Inua Jamii program, so that they can also benefit from that fund. As I finish, Mr. Speaker, allow me to say that this motion is long overdue, and it came on time when these children need to be supported by the government, because when their parents are not with them, then they are exposed to suffering and they're exposed to a lot of pressure. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Thank you. I wish to recognize two pupils from ACK Mukangu Primary School from Manyata constituency, Embu County, and students from Ntumu Boarding Primary School from Mara constituency, Tharaka Nithi. They are in the public gallery and they are welcome to follow the proceedings of the House this morning. The Honorable Brighton. Okay. I'll give this chance then to Honorable Member for Manyata. 1 minute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I wish to take this opportunity to launch an official complaint. I normally like sitting here, and this microphone has not worked for like 2 weeks. So I've always shifted my position.
I think ICT can check on that. But first, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you for recognizing the schools that are here. And among them is a very young school called Mukango ACK Secondary School that is in my constituency, Manyora constituency. A school that has a lot of potential and a school that is budding to be a leader in education. However, it's a day school in this our constituency, our county, and also in this country, Honorable Speaker. And on this, Honorable Speaker, I'm happy we are talking about a motion on implementation of child care program for children whose parents are in lawful custody. And I wish to say that also, let's not forget, Honorable Speaker, that many schools that that serve our young people, day secondary schools, to be specific, Honorable Speaker, face a problem of issues of school fees that we are able to handle as members of Parliament through the NGCDF. And Honorable Speaker, in my place, I made history by giving 53 million, which is the highest that can be given in CDF, to bursaries and to ensure our schools are able to benefit. I would wish, Honorable Speaker, to add that I saw a very good act by the director, Mount Kenya University, last week when he was doing graduations. He waived all the school fees that have been pending for those people who have cleared and have not picked their certificates, Honorable Speaker. I call upon all the principals in those day secondary schools and also our public universities to see up to it that we waiver the school fees of those.
The member for Manyata, we had a motion we were debating. You are completely out of order. Next time we give you a chance in this session, you debate the motion on the floor, not your own motion. But your time is spent. This is the chance. You had only a minute, actually. This chance is for the mover. This chance is for the mover, the motion to reply. The Honorable Brighton, you're gone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Before I reply, I want to give 1 minute to Naomi, 1.5 minutes to Naomi Wako, our Deputy Whip, and then Farah.
These are honorable members, so you call them Honorable Naomi,
Honorable Farah, yes. Honorable Naomi, another 1.5 minutes. Honorable Yegon Unwet, another 1.5 minutes, and the Honorable John Paul Murigi, another 1.5 minutes.
Them 1.5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. May I also appreciate Mheshimiwa Honorable Brighton Yegon, for allowing me to have a minute out of his time. I just want to support this motion, which is very timely and also very important in our old society. It is true that children go through emotional distress and social stigma. As we all know, according to African context, once your parents are in prison, people feel that you have also committed the same sin and they run away from you. So this will help them. Again, the other hardship they go through is economic hardship because the support they used to get from parents is no longer there. And giving them this support will always encourage them. And also maintaining the relationship between parents and the children will also be very important. And so I support the motion and congratulate Honorable Yegon for coming up with this important motion. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I also want to join the other speakers in congratulating the Honorable Yegon for bringing this very timely motion. Mr. Speaker, the Children's Act is very categorical. It says the best interest of the child, the very best interest of the child. And when a parent commits a crime, and it is incarcerated, there is no collective punishment. The children are not supposed to be punished. In other developed, what they call jurisdictions, they have what you call adoption, and they also have foster cares. In both cases, if you study them very well, in the developed world, they don't work that well. To begin with, adoption in the African sense is non-existent. Your father is your father, regardless of what the economic conditions you're in or who brings you up or not. And secondly, foster cares in other parts of the world are purely commercial. Honorable Yegon, I would appreciate if you add me 1 minute. You know, this is the former speaker, so anyway. I wish he has accepted in principle, so I think he has already said yes. Now, foster care doesn't work. What we want to do is that we allow the relatives of these children, the relatives of the people who are incarcerated, to take care of those children and bring them up in the spirit and the traditions of the African person and our cultures. But for the state to come in and support that and give a certain stipend to allow them to take good care of those children, and we have social workers who can go out there and monitor and see that that money is not spent on Changao or Busa or anything like that. It's actually spent in the best interest of those children. Mr. Speaker, those emotional distress can be taken care of by your uncles, your aunties, and your immediate relatives, not anybody else. So what I want us to do is that this is very good, it's very timely. Let's move in as Africans, as Kenyans, and take care of our own, such that those children, I know of a lady who is an administrator right now and who works with the government. She's a civil servant and specialized as a DO. Everywhere she goes, she picks up children like that, and you cannot believe the kind of results that are out there. You see engineers, you see lawyers, you see doctors who were picked up from Squara and later on ended up realizing their full potential. I urge Kenyans, all Kenyans, please take care of your relatives. I urge the government, let us have a system that takes care of our children for posterity and for the future of our nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me also this opportunity to weigh in on this very important motion. Mr. Speaker, I will not take remarks. I want to say that also these children we normally find in our societies, children whereby maybe a parent has killed the other parent, and then the parent is is incarcerated, and the children are just left as destitutes. And these children, Mr. Speaker, what we need the government to do is that to identify one of the family members to take care of these children by just giving them stipend to make sure that at least they are okay, they go to school, the government educate them. And we have these children whereby we need to see them also succeed like any other child for this in our societies. Mr. Speaker, I can see time has gone. I want to say that this motion is very important, and I'm going to say I support the motion, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Asante sana Bwana Speaker, pia nami najiunga kumpa hongera Mheshimiwa Yegon kwa kuleta mswada huu Bwana Speaker kwa wakati ambao unaofaa. Sisi wote hapa tunajua kila mtoto wa taifa hili hako na haki, na ni haki ya kila mtoto kuwa na malezi bora, elimu na pia afya, na kumaanisha wazazi wameweza kuzuiliwa katika gereza, sio kumaanisha ya kwamba mtoto hana haki ya kupata haya yote. Kwa hivyo ni jukumu la serikali katika hii sekta ya ulinzi wa hii idara ya ulinzi wa haki za watu, Bwana Speaker, kuchukulia swala hili kwa uzito sana na kuhakikisha ya kwamba watoto wameweza kupata haki zao na watoto wameweza kupata pia elimu bora, sababu kesho yake hao watoto ndio watakuwa viongozi wa taifa hili. Asante sana na naomba kuunga.
Kono. The other member who's now you can proceed and
Mr. Speaker, I have two other members. I want to donate 1 minute.
Proceed.
So that I remain with 2 minutes. Honorable Toto Tonya and Mudoni Dorothy. Honorable Mudoni Dorothy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I support Honorable Brighton, really children matter. When we come to discuss on issues pertaining children, they feel that they are not left alone. As we are debating this issue of taking care, putting measures to taking care of children whose parents are in custody, Mr. Speaker, have seen children from Kisii walking into Parliament. It is good to receive them. St. Vincent and other children around the house. See how those children are looking smart. Look how beautiful they are. Discussing issues that touch on children is the most important thing, Mr. Speaker. Love. Who doesn't want to be loved? Starting from members right before the floor of the House. Love is very paramount. In totality, all these that we are discussing is how we can bring them up with good morals and assuring them that there are people around who are thinking about them 24 hours. So, Honorable Brighton, this is a good motion. We support it and we congratulate you for thinking about the welfare of our children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support Honorable Brighton and say this is a very timely motion. Mr. Speaker, sir, you know, the life of a child is encompassed to the mother. Honorable Speaker, it is the right of every child to enjoy this life and be taken care of in the best way possible. And this is the reason why we say mothers, parents who find themselves in lawful custody, we must develop a framework to ensure that these children are not left to fate. Honorable Speaker, we must come up with regulations that will ensure that somebody responsible, either by way of adoption or by way of whichever way this child finds a safe landing place for them to grow emotionally, psychologically, and grow in a family where they are loved. Honorable Speaker, I'm saying this because a child does not understand where the mother goes. If the mother is in prison, the child below, above 5 years, 6 years, this is the time the child wants to be connected more to the parent. And this is the time when the child is growing.
Yes. Brighton, before you do that, and remember you only have 1 minute because you rented 8 minutes when you only had 5. I wish to recognize students from St. Vincent de Paul Boys Primary School from Kitutu South, Kisii County. They are the speakers gallery. And then pupils from Baringo Primary School, Kuresoi North, Nakuru County. And students from pupils from St. Nicholas Primary School, Imede Central, Meru County. They are welcome to follow proceedings of the House this morning. Honorable Evan.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we've realized that during the discussion of the motion that most of these children are circumstantial children, Mr. Speaker. They found themselves in such situations because either the father killed the mother killed the father, or their parents have been jailed for one reason or the other, and they have found themselves in a situation where they cannot be able to continue by themselves. Mr. Speaker, we need to develop special schools for such children so that they can actually be, so that their trauma can be managed, because most of these children are psychologically traumatized. Mr. Speaker, the street children that you see in our streets as a result of this, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'll be coming up with amendment to the legislation to enhance the social protection measures, and also to see to it on something that we can add to the correctional kitty. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you so much, honourable members. The time for this motion is spent. And the question to settle this motion either way will be put at the next available time slated for its decision. We now move to motion number 15.
Order number 15.
Order number 15.
Motion, National Policy on Deworming of School-Going Children.
The Honorable Machua Waithaka is in the house.
Yes, Speaker, Honorable Speaker. I rise on this motion, Mr. Speaker, that aware that Article 43(1)(a) of the Constitution provides that every person has a right to the highest attainable standard of health, including the right to health care services. Further aware that the relationship between health and education plays a significant role in school attendance rates, concerned that the negative effects of poor sanitation, such as parastatal infestations, particularly among school children, lead to anemia, stunt growth, and other stunning problems, which in turn lead to low school attendance and impact education standards. Recognizing that, according to research, school-based deworming is one of the most cost-effective interventions that provides a huge range of holistic and social benefits, such as increased school attendance and healthier kids who do better in school, while utilizing already existing school structures in administering deworming treatments to school pupils. Recalling that previous programs conducted by the Ministry of Health in partnership with the non-governmental organizations called Evidence Action have only been piloted in a few selected countries, and that the deworming efforts have been uncoordinated and dependent on external support with no clear policy or budgetary framework. Now, therefore, this House urges that the national government, through the Ministry of Health, develops a national policy on deworming school-going children as a crucial part of mainstreaming of healthcare access in the country. Mr. Speaker, interstitial or parastatal infections is regarded as a serious health public problem and amongst the most common infections affecting human beings in the world. According to WHO, World Health Organization, worms infect more than 1/3 of the world's population. When Kenya started this program in the year 2009, only in some parts of the country, there were about 5 million children in Kenya suffering from intestinal parastatic infections. In the year 2021 alone, a total of 2.1 million children aged between the ages of 2 to 14 years were successfully dewormed by the Ministry of Health in western parts of Kenya. According to the Kenya National Bureau of Standards Economic Survey 2022, we have a total of 10.3 million students in primary school and a total of 3.7 million in secondary school. This therefore means that we have a clear policy on how to do it. We can actually deworm more numbers and therefore ensure more children have access to affordable health care. Honorable Speaker, Article 43 of our Constitution guarantees the right to the highest attainable standard of health, which is a state of complete physical, mental, social, and emotional well-being, and not merely being without disease. The objective of this motion, therefore, is to ensure that the Ministry of Health comes up with a clear national policy that will see to it that school-going children are dewormed on a regular basis so as to keep our children safe, while at the same time ensuring that they stay focused in their studies and that international worms, which are common in children kids, are gotten rid of. Honorable Speaker, deworming means getting rid of the intestinal worms, which are categorized as roundworms, whipworms, and hookworms. These intestinal worms in children causes many problems such as anemia, stunt growth, impaired cognitive development, poor short memory, and all this lead to low school attendance. And according to WHO, the World Health Organization, it has been proven that deworming increases school attendance by at least 7.5%. Honorable Speaker, regular deworming program will therefore reduce absenteeism in our schools. It will also reduce class repetition, and above all, will increase test scores and other learning outcomes. In a ripple effect, this will keep our children focused in school. Deworming treatment will therefore improve not only the health and concentration in school for children, but it can also set them up for a very bright future. Honorable Speaker, we cannot develop as a country without well-educated human resource. Quality education is one of the 17 sustainable development goals that were developed by the United Nations in 2015 to act as a blueprint through which the world will become a better place. It is therefore important to put in place measures that will keep our children in school. Honorable Speaker, deworming is one of those measures. Education is the fulcrum of all other sectors. It is impossible to achieve our agenda as a country if we do not remove educational barriers that we are currently facing, such as intestinal parasitic infections. Honorable Speaker, it should be remembered that last year during our first session, the House approved the development of a school feeding policy, a motion that was introduced by Honorable Ileshi Muhanda. Should the Ministry of Education implement it, it means that students in all our schools will be able to have a meal in school. While we appreciate it, it's important also to ensure that our students are dewormed regularly to ensure that they're in good shape and in good health. Mr. Speaker, while in KICC yesterday in Nyeri, the President to make sure that our people are healthy. And I think with, if this motion is passed, which I believe it will be, it shall marry very well with the one that the President is proposing, so that we have many health promoters together with the deworming program in our primary schools. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the motion, and I would like to ask Honorable Dorothy Mudhoni, Ikara, Mary County, Mheshimiwa to second my motion.
Honorable Ikara.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this very important motion, and I want to thank Mheshimiwa Mashua Waithaka for bringing this up before the floor of this House. Honorable Speaker, I want to say Kenya is a country that is developing, and the fact that a majority of our infrastructure, including sanitation, is not very well taken care of, and this translates to the problem that we are having of deworming. Honorable Speaker, intestinal worms are primarily transmitted through contaminated soil or fecal matter, and in rural, pre-urban, and informal settlements, there is inadequate sanitation. Human waste and feces can be contaminated in the environment, including the soil and the water that our children take on a daily basis. Children playing or walking barefoot in these contaminated areas can easily contract the worms by ingesting the eggs or liver of these worms. Honorable Speaker, it is very evident that research assets at Kenya showed that the school-based masses deworming decreases absenteeism of our school-going children by 25%. And Honorable Speaker, it is important to note that when the school-aged children go to school, they have no boundaries. Honorable Speaker, they use the same facilities, they walk barefooted, they don't regularly even wash their hands, and hence this problem is very prevalent in our school. Honorable Speaker, based on this, it is important that children are regularly dewormed so that they can stay in school for a longer period. One important aspect of the regular deworming, Honorable Speaker, it ensures that the retention of our children in school is maximized, and number two, the time of going to hospital is also reduced because very few children will go to the hospital based on maybe contacting these worms. Honorable Speaker, it is very evident because during the corona period,
points of order are asked for using a very simple process. You press intervention, then I'll see you. I can't see you. What's out of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for being gracious. I think the machine is not working. Mr. Speaker, the Speaker's rules provide for the manner in which a member should dress while in these chambers. Mr. Speaker, the member for Mogotio just walked in very casually, Mr. Speaker, dressed in a manner that is not decent, that does not represent the manner in which honorable members. And because, Mr. Speaker, I am sure you don't have eyes, I want to bring to your attention that the member for Mogotio is inappropriately dressed, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I seek your kind indulgence because, Mr. Speaker, this is not the precedence of members elected in this particular house.
Where is the member from Mogotio?
This will not be visible.
I will give this chance to the honorable member who was on the floor to finish her contribution and second the motion. Then we will deal with the honorable member for Mogotio after that.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for your protection. Honorable Speaker, before I was interrupted, I was saying during the corona period, Honorable Speaker, it is scientifically evident that we had lesser hospital visitation because there was regular washing of hands with soap and water. Honorable Speaker, based on that evidence, Honorable Speaker, we know hygiene is very key to very many things. Honorable Speaker, I want to say this, the school-based deworming program is an effective, cost-effective program and easy to implement and pivotal program, and it also offers a reliable, evidence-based data on how the government can contribute to this policy change. Honorable Speaker, the national policy on deworming of school-going children will ensure that the stakeholders undertake detailed planning to support a successful rollout of the deworming campaign and maximize the number of children dewormed on a yearly basis and provide all the relevant stakeholders at every level, at the district level, at the sector level, and at the cluster level to ensure there is clear guidance on their laws and responsibility when this exercise is being undertaken. Honorable Speaker, it's important to note that if there is a national framework on this program and the implementing partners are involved well and resources are availed, Honorable Speaker, then this program will be very regular and will ensure that the school-going children are retained in school. Honorable Speaker, I want to underscore the fact that this particular program, because there is a program which is run in school even today on deworming, but because it's not regular, we don't maximize or attain the level which it can achieve the intended results. Honorable Speaker, I want to support this motion and say it is very timely and it is the very high time that this House supports this important motion so that a proper deworming program is put in place in our schools. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I second.
Thank you so much. Before I propose the motion for debate, the member from Mogosio, sometime in March this year, the Speaker made a communication regarding the dress code, and I would just like to read for you part of what the Speaker communicated. That a proper dress code for men means a coat, collar, tie, long-sleeved shirt, long trousers, socks, and shoes or service uniform. From where I'm seated, I can clearly see that you are very well dressed indeed. However, your smart dressing does not meet the rules and the Speaker's communication. Because from where I sit, I can actually see your vest at the neck. You could talk to Honorable Kaluma or the Honorable Otiende. They will tell you how to wear what you are wearing on today, what you are putting on today, in a manner that meets our rules. So therefore, order that you exit and get properly dressed and come back. Never Mogoshi, I want to proceed with the business of the House. And just for the record, you need to have the collar. That's all you need to have, and you'll be properly dressed. There are so many tailors down Embassy House, around the area, where you could see and then you come back. Order, member for Mogosho. Honorable members, I wish to propose the motion that aware that Article 43(1)(a) of the Constitution provides that every person has the right to the highest attainable standard of health, including the right to health care services. Further aware that the relationship between health and education play a significant role in school attendance rates. Concerned that the negative effects of poor sanitation, such as parasite infestations, particularly among school children, lead to anemia, stunted growth, and other salient problems which in turn lead to low school attendance and impact education standards. Recognizing that according to research, school-based deworming is one of the most cost-effective interventions that provide a huge range of holistic and social benefits, such as increased school attendance and healthier kids who do better in school, while utilizing already existing school structures in administering deworming treatments to school pupils. Recalling that previous programs conducted by the Ministry of Health in partnership with the non-governmental organizations called Evidence Action have only been piloted in a few selected counties, and that the deworming efforts have been uncoordinated and dependent on external support with no clear policy or budgetary framework. Now, therefore, this House urges the national government through the Ministry of Health to develop a national policy on deworming school-going children as a crucial part of mainstreaming of healthcare access in the country. The Honorable Rindikiri Mugambi of Buri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support this motion. And after it, I say, Mr. Speaker, the health condition of our children, particularly those in the rural areas and in the slums, need to be taken care of. Mr. Speaker, 1 worms that enter our bodies enter through many different ways. One, through the food that we eat. Two, through playing on contaminated conditions, both in school and outside the schools. The other worms also that come to our bodies through the skin, etc., etc. Mr. Speaker, this is a very important motion because it seeks for intervention and deliberate intervention from the government through the Ministry of Health. It's true, we have had in the past uncoordinated programs, and therefore this motion is coming the right time that we need to have a deliberate policy that is going to address this issue of deworming. And Mr. Speaker, deworming is not only among our school-going children, it's also for even people like us. Even me, Mr. Speaker, I went for a deworming program a month ago. So deworming is a serious medical condition among our population, which for a long time has not been focused. We have had various other focus like tuberculosis, like smallpox, chickenpox, etc. But this has been neglected. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, say that when you have this policy in place, it's going to address the issue of the health workers, the medical supply itself, and the equal distribution. We should also involve other sectors of the economy, because we have to know the kind of food that is supplied to our schools. Some of this food is not very safe, and it carries some of these diseases, including the worms. Mr. Speaker, the policy that is going to be put in place should address the issue of sanitation in the schools. Mr. Speaker, you find some of our children go to deplorable washrooms that are not conducive to a school environment. And water is also in short supply, and even that water, Mr. Speaker, nobody has checked the quality of that water. Mr. Speaker, the way the food in schools and even in our homes is prepared falls below the standards, hence calling the ones find opportunity to get into the food, the water, and the hands of our children. Mr. Speaker, it is the high time the government comes up with this policy, and I want to thank the government, because now we are joining, the national government is joining the county government in providing services closer to the people. The Kenya Kwanza government, Mr. Speaker, has agreed now in every 100 people in the constituency will have a health supply officer attached. These are the people who will be carrying out these examinations and is trying to find out the condition of our population, and we believe the government will eradicate a lot of medical conditions, a lot of health conditions that are affecting our population. Mr. Speaker, I'm aware there is a bill that is coming up to Parliament that is going to bring the food safety and feeding safety authority, and that one of its condition is the kind of quality that people eat, particular children. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my friend Machua for bringing up this motion, and I urge my fellow members, please let's support this, because it directly affects those children you are seeing in the gallery. We need to take care of those.
The member for Buri, we wish to join you in welcoming students, pupils from the Catholic Church Mission Mitone Primary School from your constituency in Meru County. Take your seat, member for Buri. And then students from Kenyatta Primary School, Baringo North, Baringo County. students, pupils from Father Martin Boyle Primary School, Tinderet in Nandi County, and students from Olbutio High School, Chepalungu, Bomet County. We welcome them to the House this afternoon to follow the proceedings and request the next speakers to join me in welcoming the students to follow our proceedings. The members speaking next would be the Honorable Mohammed Ado of Wajir South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the motion by Honorable Machua Waidaka. It is a very smart one, really timely, and deals with a problem that's afflicting many societies across this country, if not the entire country. Deworming for children is not just an intelligent, smart move, but linking it to education institutions is a way more smarter idea because of the benefits of large-scale deworming. And it could actually be the magic bullet we've been looking for to obtain a healthier society. Many other times when children who go to schools bring back some of these nasty worms back with them and pass it on to their parents, siblings, and the rest of the community they live with. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, I really believe that this is a great idea, and if put into motion, could result in healthier children, healthier societies, because worms cause a number of nasty ailments like stunting in children, stunting in children, as well as many other problems that would afflict children and also actually create problems for them in learning and getting to have proper education because of, and also it also means that it means more wages for the millions of casual laborers who might have contracted them from their children. And that's why we believe, and actually there is research that supports the massive mass deworming for children is actually working in many places, and that's why I am in support of this motion, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The Honorable Naomi Wako of Masabit.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice to this very important motion that touches on the lives of our young ones, children in schools. As I also thank Honorable Machua Waidaka, MP, and also congratulate him for thinking about the future of our children, which is quite important to all of us. Mr. Speaker, our children who are already at the gallery will see that we are also concerned about their future, and even our own children who go to schools, and for those who have advanced in age, their grandchildren. Mr. Speaker, we know very well the effect of threadworms in school kids that spread so easily. This is very common in every school, and even when children get some cold, you know, it spreads so fast and quickly from the schools to the homes, and it affects the entire family. And that has been there for the many years. And we also know, because we have gone through all these stages, that we were also affected by all this as we were growing up. Some of us did not even have the opportunity to go to hospitals and get proper treatment, but through the grace of God, we are here today. And many children are still in that state today. And as this is implemented, because this needs to be implemented, when we look at the effect of this, Mr. Speaker, we see that it causes anemia, and some of the children even don't have good food or enough food so that they, you know, they are healthy enough, And if it affects them to be anemia or to have that problem, then it also have some more effects on them. It also affects them in their growth and also some other silent problems that maybe is not known very well to many of us. And Mr. Speaker, the only way we can have a healthy society is to take care of our children. Anything that affects the growth of our children, anything that affects the future of our children, because if they are not healthy, then their future is also affected and their dreams shattered. Mr. Speaker, we need to give this all the attention it deserves so that specific health workers can be identified and sent to different schools so that they can work with the schools and make sure that deworming is done on timely basis so that our children don't suffer from this. We also know very well that majority of our schools, especially those schools that are far from the cities, those schools that are in rural areas, those schools that are in counties that are still not very much developed, like some of the counties that we come from, are exposed in many ways because the schools themselves, they don't have good schools, good structures, and especially the facilities that they use, like toilets. We know how those facilities look like, and then that means that they can easily, get these diseases and they get affected by this. The school facilities, as we also take care of this, must be improved and good health workers be put in place so that they can do this on timely basis, and the ministry, the State Department of this education must also put enough money so that we can take care of them. As we do this, we also do our part. Presidents must also make sure that hygiene is put into consideration, cutting the fingernails of our children, taking regular showers, and encouraging our children to just keep the clean, the cleanliness at any standard. That then can really help us. And if one child gets in a home, then the parents has the responsibility of also making sure that the other child is treated. So, Mr. Speaker, I support this, and if we want a healthy society, a healthy future, and good performance from our children, we must give this the attention that it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you. Member for Igembe North, the Honorable Taitumu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support this motion, very important motion on deworming of school children. Mr. Speaker, worms are a common problem in our country, not only to school-going children, but also to grown-ups. Deworming, therefore, is important overall for the well-being of people. Deworming boosts children's immunity, help control infections, and also increase nutritional uptake. Worms being a common problem, and also being parasites to do feed on one's body, making it very weak, lethargic, and frail, hence affecting the well-being of our children. Mr. Speaker, Kenya is very keen on making sure that all school-going children remain in school in order to acquire their literacy and also complete their school up to class 8 and other levels. In so doing, therefore, it is important to make sure that all school-going children are given the necessary medical attention to boost the retentivity of what they really acquire in school. It helps them to be attentive. It helps to control absenteeism in our schools, and also helps the status of well-being of our children. It is also important because this one boosts the employment. Those people who will be employed to make sure that all the school-going children are attended, I believe, Mr. Speaker, they will get employed and also earn their living through that kind of undertaking. This will also control absenteeism, increase retentivity in school, and make sure that those from vulnerable families are equally going to access an education like the ones from maybe families that are capable to make sure that their children are in school. And this one being a very important program, I really support that the government of Kenya make sure that the school-going kids are really dewormed periodically so as to make sure that we control diseases in this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Join me in welcoming the students of Mbaoini Secondary School from Lari constituency in Kiambu County. They are welcome to follow our proceedings this afternoon. They are a member from Mombasa, Honorable Zamzam Chimba.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na mimi kama mama nataka kuunga mjadala huu wa leo kuwa watoto wetu, vipenzi vyetu, roho zetu katika mashule waweze kupata dawa za kuweza kutoa minyoo. Mheshimiwa Spika, nakumbuka wakati tukiwa wadogo ilikuwa tupewa dawa ambazo ukikaa hujakaa vizuri unapata minyoo ametoka, mdudu mrefu sana tena wa kutisha. Ilikuwa tukilia sisi wakati hizo, lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, naona kwa vile mambo yameendelea na teknoloji imekuja mpya na madaktari wanafanya kazi yao kwa kasi, kuna dawa nzuri ambazo mtoto akila ule minyoo yuwasagwa ndani ya tumbo ikawa mtoto yuwakaa vizuri. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, elimu ya watoto wetu imetatizika kwa sababu watoto wengi wanatoka katika familia ambayo ni maskini. Mheshimiwa Spika, hawapati lishe bora. Watoto pengine utapata wakienda kucheza kwenye michanga wanakula matope, maisha yao ni duni. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, hata wazazi wao wanashindwa hata ile senti ya kuweza kuwanunulia dawa za minyoo. Mheshimiwa Spika, manake katika wale ambao wanaishi katika maisha ya umaskini, maisha ya uchochole, mama anashindwa nitanunua chakula ama nitaweza kununua dawa ya minyoo. Unapata vitoto vinakuja shuleni vimefura vitumbo, kitoto kinatoka mashilingi kwa uso, kitoto kinajikuna kinatatizika kusoma. Mheshimiwa Spika, mtoto kama yule hawezi kufanya masomo yake yakatokea masomo mazuri. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa hiyo unapata mtoto ile hali yake damu inakosa katika mwili, manake yule minyoo ananyonya sana na kitumbo kimefura, kila chakula anachoingiza ndani ya tumbo. Mheshimiwa Spika, minyoo ndo anang'ang'ania mle ndani ya tumbo akila kile chakula. Kwa hiyo unapata mtoto amekuwa na afya mbaya, vinywele vimekuwa vyekundu kwenye kichwa, kitoto hakina sura ya kuangaliwa, chachekwa na wenzake. Mheshimiwa Spika, paka anapata ile stigma ndani ya skuli, anaona kama wenzake wanamuona si mwenzao. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi napenda kuunga mjadala huu wa leo kuwa shule zetu kufuatia Wizara ya Afya waweze kutoa hizi dawa, watoto wapelekewe katika mashule, watoto wetu waweze kula hizi dawa, ndio wanaweza kupata afya nzuri ya kuweza kuangalia masomo yao vizuri na kusoma wakiwa na furaha, ili na sisi tuweze kutoa madaktari, tuweze kutoa maraisi, tuweze kutoa viongozi, tuweze kutoa watu wa tajriba kubwa katika taifa hili, kwa sababu mtoto atakuwa amestawi katika elimu, amefocus akiwa darasani na matokeo yanatoka vizuri. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, bajeti ya taifa hili nyingi imekuwa imeenda katika vitu ambavyo si vya kusaidia hata sana. Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini mimi naomba kama mama ambaye na watoto wangu watoto 6, Mheshimiwa Spika. Wakati mwingine pia napotelea katika bunge ama katika kazi na sahau kuwadiwamu watoto wangu, kwa sababu mama anakuwa mbio kutafuta hali ya maisha. Lakini hawa watoto wakienda shule, iwe ni shule ya private, iwe ni shule ambayo ni ya serikali, mimi naomba hawa watoto wote wachukuliwe level 1, waweze kupewa hizi dawa ziingie katika shule zote. Manake anaenda skuli atapata mwenzake ana hayo maradhi yanamwambukiza, na yeye akija anaambukiza wenzake. Kwa hiyo inakuwa ni kitu ambayo inaendelea katika jamii. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, kama mama nikiona wanangu watoto wanang'ara, wanasoma kwa bidii, hiyo ndo furaha yangu. Watoto wasiwe na minyoo katika shule, Mheshimiwa Spika, ili taifa hili liwe taifa la kunawiri kuanzia kwa watoto wetu mpaka sisi wenyewe, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo kama mama Mombasa County napigia pondo mjadala huu wa leo. Watu kule nje wanasema mimi nachapa hapa Kiswahili, nataka kuambia watu wangu wa Mombasa wana furaha nikizungumza nao kwa lugha ambao wanaielewa zaidi. Sio kuwa sielewi lugha ya Kiingereza, lakini nazungumza kwa lugha ambayo watu wangu wanaielewa zaidi. Kwa hiyo wana Mombasa, sisi tunasukuma dawa za minyoo zije katika mashule yetu ili watoto waweze kusoma kwa furaha. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Very well said. Such a graphic description of the worms and how they affect the body. This chance goes to the Honorable Member for Turkana, the Honorable Cecilia Ngitit.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance to contribute on this motion. Secondly, I would like to thank the Honorable Member, the mover of this motion, for bringing this motion in such a timely manner. Honorable Speaker, this is a motion that should be supported by all mothers in this house, and even the fathers, of course, because a child is a product of the two. Honorable Speaker, the member who moved this motion must have had an encounter with the Holy Spirit of God, because some of us who come from the North, Honorable Speaker, knowing that we have other problems like poor feeding, lack of water, and these other diseases, Honorable Speaker, we become so vulnerable. In fact, according to research in this report, I know the worst numbers come from the northern region, Honorable Speaker. Some of these problems are perpetuated by others. Issues like lack of water, Honorable Speaker, because mostly issues of worms go around with hygiene, Honorable Speaker. And hygiene without water is nothing. But in regions like ours, Honorable Speaker, where there is no water, so it becomes a riddle when you tell people to maintain hygiene because there is no water, Honorable Speaker. Then secondly, the detergents. You know, washing your hands without a detergent is just like inciting the germs or even the worms for that matter, Honorable Speaker. Now in the North, Honorable Speaker, cases of malnutrition mostly are caused by worms in manifestation, Honorable Speaker. And many cases, impaired development, poor school performance, and all these evils that come along with worms, Honorable Speaker, are manifested in peoples coming from the northern region of Kenya, Honorable Speaker. And all this is pointed towards lack of water, because most of our schools, Honorable Speaker, don't have water. Then looking at the treatment suggested by the Honorable Member, Honorable Speaker, there is need to start deworming programs. I think as a mother, I've been deworming my children like after every 3 months. After every 3 months, you're supposed to deworm children. And of course, as Honorable Speaker, Honorable Member from Mombasa said, because of our busy schedules, we forget our duties as mothers, Honorable Speaker. So deworming programs should be started in schools, Honorable Speaker, like in every 3 months. And even looking at it, medications for deworming are very cheap, Honorable Speaker, for this government to afford, and to be biased to the regions that are really affected. A government can do a research, a detailed research, to come up with most affected areas, Honorable Speaker, then the efforts now be geared towards those areas, Honorable Speaker. Then another suggestion by the Honorable Member is that there can be improved hygiene, sanitation and hygiene, Honorable Speaker. This starts with installation of water. In areas like ours, Honorable Speaker, water is a problem. So when someone wants to address such matters, Honorable Speaker, they should start with supplying water, then supplying detergents. By so doing, we will achieve the hygiene part and sanitation of addressing the worm menace, Honorable Speaker. Then the health education. I think this now includes having barasas, public gatherings, where our parents are told how to go about it, how to cut the nails of their children, how to wash hands before eating and all that. Honorable Speaker, when I was in school, we were taught how to wash hands. Washing hands is not just what we think to be. There is a procedure. There is a way someone is supposed to wash hands, starting from one point to another, so that to eradicate the germs and the worms in our hands, Honorable Speaker. Then there is the nutritional support, Honorable Speaker. Most of these children that have been infested by worms, you look at them, they are not doing good nutritionally, Honorable Speaker. So for a government to intervene, there is need to work out a nutritional support program that can include school feeding program, Honorable Speaker, and a feeding program that is so deliberate in balancing.
Give her 1 minute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the 1 extra minute. Honorable Speaker, I was concluding. The last point is about nutrition. The government can work out on a nutritional support program, Honorable Speaker, that is so deliberate and biased on working on sorting out issues or malnutrition problems that have been caused by worms, Honorable Speaker. Because we have many malnutrition cases, but the ones caused by worms can be sorted out in a specific way. And I know medics who do nutrition and sanitation issues, Honorable Speaker, can understand all this. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to again thank the Honorable Member. It's like he had the Northern region in mind when bringing this motion. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, members. Again, welcome me. Join me in welcoming the students from Githure Primary School, Gichungu constituency in Kirinyaga County, and pupils from Kiamanyeki Primary School from Mwea constituency, Kirinyaga County. They are welcome to follow our proceedings this afternoon. The member for Samburu, the Honorable Pauline Langurus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance to put my voice on this important motion that takes care of our children. Mr. Speaker, children are most vulnerable to worms infestation because their immunity is developing or is yet to develop. Untreated worm infestation prevent our children from their healthy growth. Mr. Speaker, worm infestation has caused poor nutrition among our children. It has also reduced the capacity of our children to concentrate and learn. Because if they are sick or if they have been infected by the worm infestation, most of the times they lose school and they stay at home or they go to hospital to seek for treatment. Why are we saying it is important to deworm school-going children? Mr. Speaker, this deworming in schools help to increase the little ones' nutrition uptake and manage infections like anemia, which is a very serious disease that has affected children who have been affected by worm infestation. It also helps in reducing worm infection that occurs in the community. We know that once the worm infections affect one child, it is easily transmitted to many other children in the community and even to the parents. And as one of my colleagues has said, we come from different regions in this country. There are regions that children suffer because of the lack of nutrition. They also suffer because of poor sanitation, and they also suffer because of poor or lack of water to take care of their hygiene. Therefore, these conditions mostly predisposes our children to worm infestation. It is also important to deworm our children because it lowers the chances of hospitalization and admission of our children to hospitals. Because once they are infected, most of them lose school to go to seek for treatment. And we have also been told here that some of the parents cannot even afford to buy the dewormers, leave alone the hospitalization of the children. Therefore, this kind of program that is suggested by this member, who is the mover of this motion, is a very important program for our children. Because we have seen most of them suffering and most of them missing schools because of the parasitic infection of the worms. We have also seen that there are a lot of signs if you go to visit them in school, because normally when we get time we go around our schools to visit our children, and you see a lot of signs of worm infestation, and sometimes maybe they don't know, and even the teachers might not know, because we see a lot of them with sores and painful tummies. Some of them have lost weight, some of them are irritable, or they get a lot of irritability. Some of them will tell you that they experience a lot of nausea. Some of them will also even tell you that they have seen blood in their stools. And some of them, they will present with very poor health or poor immunity. Therefore, this kind of program will help most of our children to improve their health and also help in the retention of our children in school. The studies have also shown that once this program has been rolled out in schools, it will help in reducing absenteeism by like 25%. So if we introduce this kind of program in our schools, we will have a lot of children retained in school. Therefore, they will concentrate in learning. And we also encourage the Ministry of Education to take care of the nutritional value of our children. Because as it has been said by one of the members here, some of the children will not get even food in school, at home, sorry. But when they come to school, we encourage the ministry to provide the nutritional value of the nutritional value in terms of school feeding program, coupled with the deworming, which will be a program that should be started in all the schools. We expect that this Honorable House will set a budgetary aspect to ensure that this program is rolled out in all the schools. We also encourage the Ministry of Health, as I finish, to roll out this program and incorporate it with the universal health care program that is going to be rolled out in the whole country, to ensure that this can be one of the procedures that will be introduced in all the schools, and it will be done as recommended by.
Thank you. The Honorable Jackson Kosgei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to congratulate the Member of Parliament who has introduced this motion on this subject of deworming of our children. Apart from being a constitutional right for our children to access the highest level of health facilitation possible, I think it is a moral right, Mr. Speaker, that parents and institutions of government should be able to participate in building a strong future generation. It has been said that the present generation is a trustee of the future generation. So the deworming of our children is part of that, and health facility that should be given. And as the colleagues spoken before in support of this motion, I think the two ministries concerned, the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health, should be able to converge in expanding the services and make it possible, and especially in areas where marginalized or for other reasons like disturbed areas where we have banditry or other social barriers that can restrain such services to reach there, and the Ministry of Interior, so that children from all over this country should enjoy. We also have another population. In our country, we have about 720 or so thousand
refugees from various countries who have run to this country seeking asylum, or others are coming to find a peaceful environment. I think the ministry should be able, in conjunction with World Health, to make sure that even the children growing in that environment access the same services, Mr. Speaker. With that, I support the motion.
Thank you. Member for Mumias East.
Okay. Speaker, first I just want to begin by thanking the mover of the motion. As we know that deworming is one of the key issues that affects most of the children in our most of the rural schools where we are representing, and you realize that with this kind of deworming, if we don't do it, it affects even our children to get infected, to be chronic to other diseases. So I do believe that by moving forward and implementing this program for the deworming across all the children in all our institutions is going to be a major boost, even to enable our children to concentrate in class, because we know this one will affect even the performance of children in our institutions. And then we also realize that as a member of parliament, as much as we are also members even to build more toilets in our institutions, primary schools, and even our secondary schools. This will boost the health of our children as we also as we also continue seeing the government implementing this program of deworming children. So, Mr. Speaker, I move the motion and support it 100%. Thank you.
Member for Embu County.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. I also rise to add my voice to this important motion that has been brought to this House by Honorable Waithaka, and I wish to state that it is the right of every person to access good health care. And when we talk about this motion on national policy on deworming of school-going children, Honorable Speaker, allow me to say that it's not only the school-going children, even grown-ups, even members of this House. When is the last time that you decided to deworm yourself? It is stated that both grown-ups, adults, and children should at least deworm themselves after every 6 months. That is to say, twice per year. And so, Honorable Speaker, when I stand to support this motion, I know that as much as it is the right of every one of us to access good health care, the most vulnerable when it comes to deworming our children are those in the rural areas, and especially in the slums, and in those very poor institutions. But that notwithstanding, Honorable Speaker, the issue of deworming cuts across. It is not a respecter of the poor or the rich. Because our children, whether they are in the rural areas, in the slums, or in the villages, they will still mingle with the upper class children in their schools. And so they will also be affected. So, Honorable Speaker, as we task the government to ensure that this program is rolled in our schools, we also need to have the fact that we need to have water, sanitation in the schools, so that at least there can be a hand-washing culture in our various schools, whether in the rural areas or in the urban areas, because the issue of deworming, it cuts across. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I know that failure to deworm, and if you are affected, and as our children, they will not be able to concentrate in their schools, their feeding will be affected, they will also have no immunity in them, and their uptake, nutritional uptake, will be compromised. Therefore, I want to support this motion by saying that the government should set aside some budget to ensure that this deworming exercise is carried in the various schools across all the primary schools in the country, and also in our homes as parents. We need to take the vast responsibility to ensure
that our children and our parents also go through the deworming exercise at least after every 6 months. As I finish, Honorable Speaker, I want to state that the Deputy President yesterday in Sagana State Road indicated the need to incorporate the community health frontiers, who then, when this program is rolled, can also help in the villages to administer the issue of deworming in the villages. And therefore, I wish to support this motion for this program of deworming to be established through the Ministry of Health and to be rolled in our schools. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Before the member for Kwale takes the chance, let me recognize and welcome pupils from Ayebo Primary School, Baringo North constituency in Baringo County, and pupils from Karunga Primary School from Gilgil, Nakuru County, and students from Nzukini Secondary School, Masinga constituency, Machakos County. They are welcome to follow our proceedings this afternoon and in the future. The Honorable Member for Kwale, Honorable Masito.
Basi asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipatia fursa hii. Mimi pia niunge mkono na kumpatia kongole mjumbe mwenzangu wa kutoka Mheshimiwa Mashua wa Ithaka kwa kuweza kuleta hoja hii mbele ya bunge hili. Hili ni swala ambalo ningependa lishabikiwe na wabunge wengi, wanaume na wanawake katika bunge hili. Tunatambua kuwa kwa kweli kuna shida kwa sababu ya umasikini uliokita mizizi katika jamii zetu na ni kwa Kenya nzima kwa jumla. Mimi naweza kupigia upatu sehemu yangu ile ya Kwale niliyotoka. Eneo lile la Kwale au gatuzi la Kwale, kuna sehemu za uchochole, umaskini mwingi kwa jamii zilizoko pale. Nikiangalia watoto wa shule, wala wanaokwenda shule ambao mzazi hawezi hata kununua kiatu, je, ataweza kumfanyia kumwondoshea minyoo au kumfanyia deworming yule mtoto wake? Hii ni la hasha, haiwezi. Ningependa hata mimi hii program ambayo tunaililia sana ipatikane, ya kuweza wanafunzi kufanyiwa zoezi la deworming au kufurushwa kwa minyoo, liweze kupatikana katika mashule mengi au yote ya Kenya. Tukiangalia mashule mengi pale Kwale ninapotoka, hata maji mashule hayana. Wanafunzi wanapokwenda haja wakitoka pale au wakienda msalani, wanapotoka pale tunajiuliza mikono yao huwa wamejipangusa na nini au wamefanya nini? Anatoka pale mtoto anakwenda kula chakula, anakwenda kula matunda ambapo hajasafisha mikono yake vile inavyopasa isafishwe. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, hii mimi naipigia upatu na naiunga mkono motion hii. Taifa hili kupitia kwa Wizara ya Afya tuweze kuwafanyia watoto wetu hii deworming, kufurushwa kwa minyoo, waweze kutolewa minyoo watoto wa chini ya miaka 10 kuja chini. Ni jambo ambalo litatuvutia sana sisi wabunge na litatujenga, na pia tutaweza kudhibiti afya ya watoto wetu. Nikiangalia utaweza kuona mtoto amekonda kabisa, unafikiria ana maradhi gani ambayo yanamsibu, lakini ni sababu ya kuwa afya yake haijaangaliwa. Na tunajua mtoto mdogo lazima aweze kutibiwa minyoo ndio aweze kupata afya nzuri kwa maisha mazuri, ndio kesho na yeye aweze kusimama mbele ya bunge kama hivi, aweze kuwa mtu mkubwa, aweze hata kuwa governor, aweze kuwa waziri, lakini lazima apate afya nzuri. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, ninamuunga mkono mjumbe aliyeweza kuleta hoja hii iweze kuratibiwa na kufikiriwa na serikali yetu ya Kenya. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na ninaunga mkono hoja hii.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Masito. Honorable members, the mover on this motion will be called upon to reply the next time it's noted in the order paper. Members, time now being 1 p.m. This House stands adjourned until today, afternoon today, Wednesday, 9th August 2023 at 2:30 p.m.